Mhm. Oh shit. What's the name of one of those dudes that died in the plane crash? Well, yeah, but whatever. It's an ice cream sandwich. I eat ice cream. Excuse you. Mm. Oh wow. There it is. Also got Kit Kats in there. Mm. 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 Mm-hmm. Oh, it's like the bird book down. Honey, are you okay? Wait, what do you say? What do you say? What? Bring? Lily? What is that face? Hmm? Okay, passable, not pass. That's different. We'll start you, bitch. Oh, so. You do something with the animal not telling me to do something, not telling you. Oh, these two are toxic. Um, mm, all three of these comments are so true. Bro, you were giggling up this time. What's the attitude? Maybe not caring about the music, so it's not knows he's not like other girl. He's reading a book in the fucking crowd. Everyone's so funny. Go fuck yourself. Will automatically be registered for U.S. military draft. Wait, who is? Why all this ambulance? Nothing you doing. Okay, my brother's giving me an essay.
no, not except with math. And he smiles, and Carly smiles. So Carly's grandparents have also been in attendance, Ashley's parents, it seems. She smiles at them whenever she comes into the courtroom. So people use that as proof that Carly's just very manipulative, it seems. Yes. Not in the high emotional moments, but when she smiles at them and they're typically stoic and smiling back. There might be a legal aspect to all of.
What? Oh, right. You don't like audio messages. Can you chill? I'm making faces. Really? Why are you making faces? I'm watching Netflix. Why are you making faces? What did you do? Really? What are you doing? Um, Blue stresses me out in like a
This too. Some
different
people
way.
say, no, he's not defending Carly.
Blue stresses me out like in a different way than Mustang does.
Because he is like doing something weird with Carly. It might be because he's trying to protect himself. Technically, the gun used to shoot Ashley is registered to Heath. Heath knows that prior to this, she was seeing a therapist and Carly was mentally unstable. Some netizens believe that could fall on Heath. He could get some sort of charges for having his gun so easily accessible because recently, with all the other happenings, the school shootings, that has been the case where parents know that their children are mentally unstable and still let them have access to weapons, they also get charged, which rightfully so. But some people think he's doing this defensive, like, no, nothing was wrong, so that he doesn't get legally held, potentially, for having her have access to these weapons. So some people are saying it's not a weird thing. He's doing this for his legal thing, and that's probably why he also got an attorney. I don't know about this theory. I don't know if the police would have charged him with anything, but a lot of netizens have been pointing it out. Also, there were a lot of guns in that house. There was also a shotgun and an AR, unloaded, but in the closet. But still, one netizen writes, hearing that the gun was unsecured under the bed, it feels like all of this could have been prevented or reduced with proper gun safety. So that's one of the theories. And then I will say a good chunk of people fall into the category of, I don't know, but it's definitely weird. They comment, very weird reactions from the stepdad, but I guess people deal with trauma differently. I don't know. One of the reasons that this case starts going viral recently is not just her interactions with her stepdad, whom she tried to kill, but Carly has very interesting court appearances, and she just behaves a bit interesting. A lot of netizens have opinions on how she looks, what she's wearing, how she cries. So people point out that she was arrested in a Nirvana shirt, and her hair was in this almost sporty looking bob. But now she's got this bob with bangs. She is kind of leaning into this doll girl type of aesthetic. I don't know. Obviously, nobody expects her to show up in court with her Nirvana shirt on, but some netizens think that she's clearly dressing in a way that is very reminiscent of Catholic schoolgirl outfits. Plaid dresses, collared dress shirts, cardigans with gold buttons all the way, frilly sleeves. Some netizens comment, who thought dressing her up like an 8-year-old would be believable? I don't know. The outfit makes her look more evil. The little Catholic schoolgirl thing does not work on us. They also say with her hair, the short hair with the bangs and the outfits, they say she looks like the girl from the movie Orphan, which makes this creepier. But some commentators think it's working. They write, I mean, she's got that little pumpkin face, this little bob. She looks very innocent. Others make comments about how the defense is working overtime with her styling, saying, surprised they didn't just put her in something pink with unicorns on it. Yeah, so that's been a huge topic of conversation. I will say her baby face is kind of out of this world. She does look a lot younger than she is. And defense attorneys, to their defense, will coach their clients on what to wear, how to dress. But more so than her attire, I think it's her demeanor. I mean, the first day she looks a bit more distressed, but other than that, most of the time she looks like she's seen crazier stuff, like more exciting stuff. She looks like she's in the pews of Easter Sunday church sermon. She looks kind of disinterested. She's very emotional during Heath's 911 call when that's played. She's pretty engaged when Heath is on the stand. And she's the most locked in when the defense expert, the psychiatrist, goes up there to talk about how mentally unwell she is. She's just locked in. So fascinating.
Like Mark is saying, just talk about it.
Just that she has potentially schizophrenia. She's bipolar. She was not of her right mind.
For the last 5 years, she thought about 60% of her time in the rest of the state, about 20% of her time I don't know the state, and about 20% of her time in the So I gave her the diagnosis of bipolar 2.
Lockton is weird. She's fascinated by how someone perceives her, how this expert perceives her. There is an authoritative look to her when she's locked in. It's not like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, what's happening? Like, I don't understand these words he's saying. It's almost analytical study, which is it was a little creepy at times. It's a little unsettling. She does giggle and smirk a lot during the trial. There was one where the prosecutor's expert went up there and he's talking about, yeah, I don't think she's crazy. I read through her journals. I spoke with her. I'm a psychiatrist. I don't think she's crazy. And like the whole Tom Riddle thing, that's from Harry Potter. And he's talking about the connections with Harry Potter and all these villains. She seems to have an obsession with villains. And she just smirks. A full smirk.
Tom Riddle is Harry Potter.
Sometimes she's giggling with her attorneys. I don't know if they're writing something, but she'll just giggle. She scribbles something on a piece of paper, her defense attorney, and I don't know what the context is, but she thinks it's hilarious and she just starts giggling. It's just not appropriate. Another point of frustration for netizens is she really only cries when someone calls her a victim of some sort. She just can't help but cry. And there are other times when her defense attorneys talk about how close she is with her mom. She starts blinking rapidly, her lips get thin, and she starts nodding up and down like, yes, we were. A lot of people feel like it's very forced. You tell me. She also does this thin-lipped, looking down, shy smile when the defense talks about her grades and how smart she is. Like, oh, stop, I'm embarrassed. Or when the defense talks about how she's not a deranged child, she's not a troubled child, she does these strange little no head shakes, and her lips are thin, like she's trying to cry, and she just shakes her head no. It feels like she's very performative for the jury. And it just doesn't feel natural. A lot of the comments made me when I force myself to cry. Sometimes she'll have these moments where she just looks straight into the camera of the live streaming court stuff where it just feels like she's breaking the fourth wall. The whole thing is unsettling. She'll just stare straight into the camera. Many netizens also point out that she just cries at weird times. I mean, she could be in her head, but she'll just start busting out into tears while they're swearing in a witness, like a random witness, like a police officer, who's probably not going to say anything crazy, but she'll just start crying while they're being sworn in. It's just very odd. On top of that, when a state witness, so her opposition, if you will, if they state something about her that puts her in a negative light, she'll just sometimes smirk here and there. And then she'll take these side glances to her stepfather who's sitting in the court supporting her, and then they'll smile at each other, and her behavior is definitely unsettling, and it's not working in the defense's favor because their whole argument here is that Carly is insane. They state that prior to this, they're saying she is like the poster child for someone who might have a psychotic break. They're saying that her biological father is bipolar. Now, the state brought up an expert who said, well, I went through her father's medical records because I was allowed to, and I saw that he had a 1-hour consultation with the doctor, and they diagnosed him with bipolar disorder. Bipolar 2 to be exact. But 1 hour is not enough. And that same doctor prescribed him Adderall, which is an ADHD medication. And this psychiatrist for the state is saying that is not common. When you have someone with bipolar 2, you would be very, very hesitant and careful to prescribe a controlled substance like Adderall. The defense also states that her dad is schizophrenic, and they state that that means Carly has a higher chance of being schizophrenic, but he has never been diagnosed, at least from what the state could find, of having schizophrenia. They state that prior to this, Carly was seeing a therapist here and there for a few weeks because she was just having bouts of depression. She just became very lethargic. Her mom was really worried about her. She would go see this therapist once or twice a week. Never mentioned hearing voices, but suddenly in prison after the murder, she reports that she's been hearing voices since she was a little kid. The state's experts argue that's actually not very realistic. People don't start hearing voices when they're 7 years old. Maybe it's an internal monologue that they mistake as a voice in their head, but these hallucinations don't come in that early, and that consistently. They also state that Carly was put on antidepressants. She was first put on Zoloft, and that made her feel like a, quote, zombie. They switched her medication to Lexapro. They think that that medication switch also caused a psychotic break in her head. The state is arguing Lexapro usually causes self-exit ideations, not homicidal ideations. So this just doesn't make sense either. Are we really pulling the Lexapro defense? Because it doesn't really work. The defense also states the weed, the self-medicating, was also very volatile for her mental state, which most people argue it's just weed. She should not be doing it at 14, but it's just weed. And a lot of comments were saying if she was doing meth, cocaine, crack, all these things, I might be like, okay, yeah, that could probably cause a psychotic break. But weed, people were saying it doesn't make any sense. They also state that coupled with sudden disappointment that she knew her mom was feeling because on the way home she found out that her mom found out that there were vape pens in her room. She didn't want to feel that disappointment because she loves her mom so much that it rendered her into a state of psychosis, and then she murdered her mother in a state of psychosis. So would I say out of all the insanity defenses that I've researched before, is this a good one? I would say it's probably one of the worst ones. Especially for a 14-year-old, I feel like you could have done an okay job considering her age. Because she's already 14, she's been in therapy. I feel like there would have been a lot of ways for a good defense attorney to try and spin a whole story about how she's unwell. I don't think it would have been believable in the end, but these defense attorneys were very questionable. Yeah, I think they were probably, one of the worst defense attorneys I've seen. And the biggest thing is, the defense states that before Carly shot her mom, she blacks out, doesn't remember coming home, okay? She gets home, blacks out, shoots her mom, she comes to in the storm drain. She crawls out of the storm drain. But the state points out the fact that in the body cam footage, her hands are getting swabbed, and then she confirms it's a pistol. She asks about her stepdad. So they're asking, okay, how could you black out and still remember those things? Additionally, her psychiatrist is stating that she is having these nightmares where she hears gunshots go off. And this is in prison while she's awaiting trial. Now, the state argues, if you blacked out, you don't remember. So why would you have these PTSD-like dreams about it? If you don't recall that, if that's not something that you did, how could you have nightmares about it? And then also they argue that her journal, it sounds like someone who wants it to be read. It sounds kind of like a little kid reads a book on psychosis and then writes a journal about it.
The journal was written all recently.
Yes. Within the oldest entry I think they brought up into evidence was maybe a few months old. Oh, there was one in 2023, so like 11 months before she allegedly wrote, I'm a schizophrenic person. I'm crazy. I miss the comfort of being sane. I just want to find true love, then maybe I wouldn't be so crazy. I'm scared. I need help. Something along those lines. And the psychiatrist for the state was like, again, it just sounds like every symptom in the book that she's trying to replicate into this journal. It sounds very villainous. All these things are a little bit odd. And the way that she writes about hearing voices, she writes, it's silly actually. The state psychiatrist says, if you've met anyone with auditory hallucinations, they would never trivialize it. They would never say, it's silly actually, because these are real to them. It's so traumatizing. It's so haunting for them. They're terrified of these voices. They're not going to downplay it and say, I'm just so silly I hear these voices. And also, his whole argument in support of Carly was trying to argue that it seemed like Carly was out of her mind. She didn't even recognize him when she shot at him. That's how he says it. When she did text on her mom's phone, you coming home, honey? Like, it's very clear that she's luring him in. Additionally, one of the main notes of her psychiatrist that was seeing her prior to the murder was that Carly reported being angry with her friends because they weren't as serious as her. The psychiatrist wrote she never reported hearing voices. She was just kind of rude to people she felt were not as smart as she was. She felt like she was losing patience with her teachers. And it seems like she gets off on being better than others. She would tell her therapist in almost a bragging way that she was reading Crime and Punishment, which is about a main character who is obsessed with his own intellectual superiority, that he starts planning to murder someone to get away with it. And he does in fact murder someone, and his whole life starts unraveling. He descends into a very scary state of paranoia, self-loathing. He's being hunted by a detective till he's ultimately confessed and is sentenced to hard labor. And they report that she does seem to have these very strange wants to appear a certain way. But that was about it. Other than that, she seemed a little depressed. The state argues Carly likely heard her mom in her room finding her vape pen. That's why she was listening. Then she walks with purpose quickly directly to where the object is that could kill her mother. In her mom's room is the gun under the mattress. To me, that sounds like an intact motor function. It shows coordination and it suggests a specific intent. She did not walk to the kitchen and grab a banana, which is something that many psychotic patients would do, like when they're in psychosis, in a state of psychosis. A lot of the times when people are in a state of psychosis, they don't harm others, they end up harming themselves by accident. She walks directly to where the sole object is that could kill her mother, retrieves it. In a very methodical manner, she peeks around the corner while hiding this object. These are high-functioning things that take several areas of the brain. It's almost predatory, in my opinion. That is the statement of the state's expert. And even with the 2 shots to Ashley's brain, he believes it takes marksmanship that shows a high level of brain functioning to shoot someone in the head like that. He says if he were to describe the crime, the psychiatrist states the word would be diabolical. And in fact, he states Carly is actually quite charming and manipulative in a sense. He says, she's very likable. I liked her. I don't like saying any of these things. So with the closing statements, the defense states, if Carly is so diabolical, so smart, so callous, why is this so dumb? Essentially, they ask, nothing about this looks like a well-planned out scheme. Much of what she did seems senseless. Why plan to shoot your stepfather and invite friends over? That makes no sense. Why wouldn't she immediately just run away? I hope none of us are ever judged by the worst moment of our lives, but rather our whole lives as a whole. And when you look at the facts of this case as a whole, and the picture of who Carly Gregg is on the whole, you'll see this wasn't a bad kid. This wasn't a kid who was enraged. This was a kid experiencing significant mental health issues and health issues that were running in her family that we know are hereditary. This is a kid that was compliant with the medication that she was put on. However, that medication caused her symptoms to worsen. And while she was having a state of psychosis, in that episode of acute stress, she lost herself in what was the perfect storm. I'm asking you, for those reasons, to please find Carly Gregg not guilty by reason of insanity and finally quell this storm for Carly Gregg and her family. The prosecutors state, the defense wants you to believe that from the time she took the dogs out, she blacked out. Well, that's a real convenient time to be blacked out. When she still has the wherewithal to enter her mom's code into her phone and text someone specific, and that specific person is her stepmother, Heath Smiley, when are you going to be home, honey? They go on to argue, yes, she has mental health problems. Quote, those records state she has anxiety and depression. Ladies and gentlemen, it's indisputed that anxiety and depression don't cause you to kill someone. As for her hearing voices or having lapses in time, you did not hear that from any provider that's ever seen Carly before the crime. Was it a perfect plan? No, nobody ever said it was perfect. That's why we're here, but that is not insanity. In the end, Carly was found guilty. They are appealing her sentence, but a lot of netizens have a lot of thoughts, even with this verdict. The netizens who believe that Carly should have been found insane, not guilty by reason of insanity, they write, damn, some of you guys are brutal, she's a baby. She doesn't even have a fully developed frontal cortex. Things happen to children that develop these behaviors, they're born innocent. She's remorseful, it happens sometimes. 14 is a child. I know she took a life, but her brain is not fully developed. We're watching more and more children being treated like adults. I'm torn. The crime is really bad, yet we are dealing with the child physically, mentally, and emotionally. Poor Carly, the way her stepfather smiles at her and has a good relationship with her. I remember I started seeing a psychiatrist at 14 because I was bipolar. They had her on medication. Maybe she just flipped out. The others that do not believe she was insane at the time of the crime, that she knew what she was doing, they write, the fact that she shot her mom, came to the kitchen and was messaging someone, heard her mom screaming, and then went back to check up on her, she was fully aware of what she was doing. Another writes, oh, cry me a river. She was always trying to make herself cry, but it's not working. Sociopaths always forget to produce tears in their performances. I believe those tears are real tears, I just don't believe this was mental illness, is another comment. She cries for herself and herself only. She ugly snot cried today because it suddenly became very real for her that she will spend the rest of her life in prison. I don't know, after hearing from her therapist, nothing sounds like insanity. It sounds like a very intelligent girl who, for all intents and purposes, is now trying for some insanity defense. Still don't know if life is the answer, but she should have taken that 40-year plea. Others just focus on the evidence in the trial, like the footage of the dogs. They write, the body language of these dogs really makes it sink in for you. They instantly went from tails wagging excited to see their owners to scared, frantic, and confused. Animals are so perceptive. After the gunshots, they start pacing, like they look very anxious and stressed. Others are just using that as a chance to bully a 14-year-old. They write, it's the chin pimples for me. Hope they sell Proactive at the commissary in prison. Others are just talking about her strange courtroom cries and smiles. They write, it's the fake convulsions and strained face for me. Others think Carly is enjoying the trial, and they write, look at her. She's both horrified and fascinated by what she's done. She has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of her mother, the attempted murder of her stepfather, and 10 years for tampering with evidence. Her attorneys have expressed disappointment, and hiding the cameras. They state that Carly knows this is not the end, meaning they're going to be appealing the verdict, which could be possible. I imagine if she claims ineffective counsel, There were parts where the defense was just doing things, and I'm like, what is the purpose of this? For example, the body cam footage where Carly is arrested and her hands are being swabbed, the defense kept bringing up the fact that one of the officers muted his body cam after swabbing Carly's hands. He states that he did it because he and the other officers were talking about personnel issues, like who's going where and who's taking where who, and those are lots of officers' names that don't need to be included in this evidence, right? And it's not like they were interacting with Carly at the time that they muted it. They were stepped off to the side. There were other officers with Carly. But the defense kept stating it was strange. It's against protocol. Is it not? Is it not? And everyone was like, I mean, it is. He did break protocol, but what does that have to do with Carly? Because it's not like he has any incentive or motive, or there's no suspicion that he was trying to help Carly, not help Carly in any way. Yes, but they were just kept going on it. Like, admit it, you broke protocol. A lot of the expert stuff didn't make sense. They state that she was diagnosed after the murder with bipolar 2 and was having auditory hallucinations her whole life. But auditory hallucinations can happen to those with bipolar 2, but aren't as common. So everything just felt very wishy-washy. I don't know. She could have bipolar 2. She could have been having auditory hallucinations, but nothing made sense. In fact, they just basically went up there and read someone the DSM-5 is what it felt like. They were like, you know what? It could have been this, which symptoms include blah, 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 blah.
DSM-5 is
Diagnostic manual for psychiatrists. It just felt not specific to Carly and just more so a regurgitation of information of things that could possibly happen to someone when they have maybe certain conditions. It just didn't make sense. And some comments just read, this is justice. She could have admitted guilt and gotten parole after 40 years, but she didn't. She didn't admit anything, and now she gets life in prison and will never be released. She chose this. Another comment reads, she is truly shocked. She thought because she was 14 and looks 12 that it was going to go in her favor. Another comment reads, the thought of someone carrying their own killer in their stomach for 9 months is truly creepy to me and depressing. Another just reads, adult decisions have adult consequences. What are your thoughts on this case? It seems like everybody is very divided. Some people think that she should just be hospitalized. Others think that she should be acquitted. I would think most are pretty happy with this conviction, but they wonder if there's a lot of other theories floating around. What are your thoughts? Why do you think she killed her mom? Just pure evil? Some people are saying this is like a serial killer in the making, but a lot of people were also arguing it doesn't make sense. She doesn't have these trademarks that you see in a lot of serial killers. It just feels off. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Leave it in the comments. Please stay safe, and I will see you in the next one. March 1st, 2021. Shailene is working as the manager of the Glen Orchid General Store. It's a cute little 2-story shop near the water in Canada. It's almost literally on the lake. It looks like the starting point of every small town romance novel. Customers walk in, they peruse through the snack aisles, they buy their little drinks, but they also sell fishing supplies if you just want to throw a yard right outside. If you're hungry, you can buy fresh fruit, fresh produce. There's picnic tables outside and they sell full-on, full-course meals. It's a cute little community cottage shop. Shailene, the general manager, she pulls up to the parking lot at around 6:30 that morning. They open at 7. And when she pulls up, there's already a dark-colored Mercedes SUV parked, perhaps waiting for her to open. It seems like they need something right at 7. So she rushes in, she's getting the store ready. 7 o'clock hits, she whips open the doors, and nobody's walking in. That's strange. She gives it more time. She doesn't see that couple in the dark-colored SUV walk in until 8 a.m. Another hour later. Maybe they were taking a nap, who knows? A tall man with brown hair walks in. He's trying to buy some snacks and use the restroom. He's accompanied with what seems to be his girlfriend, an Asian woman with long black hair. The two of them buy a few things. They use the restroom for considerably quite a long time. And then the man turns to his Asian girlfriend and says, "She's here. We gotta go." It's a little weird, but Shailene thought maybe they're meeting someone. No big deal. Later that day, she goes to clean up the restroom, and she's taken out the wastebasket when she notices that there is another black plastic bag inside the trash can. She's like, what? Let me just open it up. She peeks inside, 40 bullets are inside the bag. Why are there 40 bullets in here? There's clothes, sweatpants, unused. But still, who just trashes bullets? Clothes, she pulls them out, tiny bits of blood on them. A phone charger with blood, and then she pulls out a key, car keys to an Audi Q5, a luxury vehicle. Who just throws away car keys to a car like that? And a blonde wig. So strange. She thinks it's so strange, in fact, she immediately calls the police. She tells them everything. Okay, and ma'am, what did the couple look like? Oh, very good looking. The very good looking couple wouldn't be found for months. They're found months later in Eastern Europe. Their names are Oliver and Lucy, but only one of them comes back to Canada, Lucy. And when she lands back in Canadian soil months after this bizarre blonde wig and bullets in the general store trash can, she's taken into this tiny windowless room. It's this interrogation room, and a man sits in front of her and asks her, "How's your flight, Lucy?" She responds, "The food wasn't bad, and not the best flight experience. I'm not used to sitting in tight spaces." The officer chuckles. "Yeah, flying coach is a little bit," and I feel really bad for the officers that had to come and get me because they had to make stopovers, layovers. Oh, before they met with you, yeah. Before they met with you, Lucy, our service allowed them to take some annual leave time, so they got some time to see the city and the sights. They weren't that inconvenienced. She puts her hand up to her arm.
Yeah, me and my mom was really concerned about that. We offered Interpol to tell them that we'll fly them private, but Interpol declined the offer.
Yeah, we can't accept things from things like that. We have to be able to use and pull. Wait, your mom wants to fly into police in a private jet?
Yes, from Eastern Europe to Canada. Lucy honestly just felt bad for the Canadian officials who had to practically babysit her on this international flight, flying economy. The officer responds, "Oh, thank you for the offer, Lucy, but we can't accept things like that from." The detective looks like he wants to say, like suspected murderers like you. This is the murder case of what some people have deemed the Asian Kardashian sisters, and how one of them committed murder. We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the SAFE Project, a national nonprofit dedicated to building collaboration to address the addiction epidemic, prevent overdoses, and the mental health challenges that may lead to them. Today's episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at RottenMangoPodcast.com. A few disclaimers for today's case. There are mentions of illegal substance use and dealing. There's also a brief mention of the loss of pregnancy. So with that being said, let's get started. There is a saying when it comes to going to trial for a crime. The best defense is an expensive defense. The second best defense is a free defense. And the worst defense is a cheap defense. Which has nothing to do with the attorney. There are a lot of passionate attorneys who will defend their clients regardless of how much financial compensation there is at the end. But technically speaking, resources could be the most important thing in a trial. For high-profile criminal cases that's going to go to a full trial, a top criminal defense team could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not in the millions of dollars range. O.J. Simpson's dream team defense, adjusted for inflation, would have been anywhere between $15 million now. The Enron executives, Ken Lay and Jeff Skilling, they paid nearly $70 million for their defense. There's a few reasons defense teams are pricey. One netizen states, it's not just the attorney standing with you in court. That money pays for half a dozen associates that are sitting in the office solely working on your case, researching every issue, cranking out quality motions at every possible point. It's the private investigators that are digging up every witness and shred of evidence. It's the team of 10 all-star experts, forensic experts, psychiatrists who are going to wow the jury with their resume and the way they present the evidence in a way that favors your case. It's the jury consultants that are going to get the best jury panel in that box for you. That's why money makes a difference. There are plenty of public defenders and cheaper defenders, criminal defense attorneys with tremendous amounts of experience and are as sharp as any celebrity lawyer. But when you buy a defense, you're not purchasing individual attorney talent. You're bankrolling an army. Another netizen comments, on top of that, powerful people play with powerful people, meaning high-profile criminal defense attorneys that get paid the big bucks likely go to parties where the judges are, where the prosecutors are. They probably have better connections and friendships, which can help negotiate plea deals or reduce charges. Which, if accurate, and there must be some truth to it, that there's so many instances of people buying innocence, it's severely depressing. Maybe a topic for another day. Today, though, we are talking about one of the most high-profile, established criminal defense attorneys in Canada, Liam O'Connor. He's well known in Toronto for getting defendants off for things like the attempted murder of a Toronto police officer, alleged hate crimes, conspiring to kill 2 people at the same time. I mean, you could say he knows what he's doing. He knows how to defend people. And in the case of Lucy Lee, who some people have dubbed the Asian Kardashian of Canada, he seems to be taking a slightly different approach, a unique approach. He's defending Lucy Lee, an Instagram model and daughter of a wealthy Chinese businesswoman, a well-connected, powerful businesswoman. And in his defense, he states to the jury, Lucy is a distinctively flawed individual. She is naive. She's superficial. She's juvenile. She is entitled. She is immature, sometimes irresponsible. She has terrible taste in men, which is not yet a crime, right? She is full of moral failings. She is perhaps the stupidest person in the room, or possibly on the planet. This
None
is
of
what
that's
she's
a
paid,
crime.
allegedly, maybe close to 7 figures for.
It's not asking. It's a crime.
Yeah, none of that is a crime. And that seems to be the reasoning that he offers on why she tried to murder 2 people. Lucy Lee is the eldest of 3 triplets. The Lee family consists of the 3 triplets and the 2 other siblings. I think that's why also the Kardashian comes into play. It's a huge family. And Lucy is the eldest of all of them. But let's mainly focus on the triplets. It's Lucy, Caitlyn, and Jane. Lucy is the oldest by 5 minutes. They actually don't go by the name the Lee triplets. They go by the Mia triplets. I'm not sure why. That's what they call themselves. And I cannot exactly tell you how famous the triplets were. It seems like they were pretty well known in the Toronto area, but a lot of their social medias have been more or less white. They would post in bikinis or other slightly revealing outfits. The 3 of them, they're beautiful. I think a lot of people were intrigued by really pretty triplets who are also from a really, really well-off family. There are some re-uploaded lives that they've done where they answer people's questions. And honestly, Lucy, out of the entire 3, seems the most calm, or maybe even the most shy. During these Instagram lives, she would be the quietest. And when she responds to questions, she's not joking around with her sister. She's not making fun. She's just kind of like, yeah, oh yeah.
Can you tell them apart?
Yes. Yes, I can. Yeah, but they look pretty identical. Yeah. Now, Caitlyn, one of the triplets, was actually one of the 44 finalists in the Canadian branch of the Miss World 2020 pageant. So all the triplets, they did pretty well for themselves. Now, side note, the triplets' mom, Winnie Lee, she is a strong presence in Canada. She's powerful. When Lucy's parents first immigrated from China to Canada, they did not have much in their name. But be that as it may, they go on to create a whole Chinese-Canadian empire. Her mom goes by the name Winnie, and she runs this financial management business. She manages rich people's money, and in return, she makes rich people money. She is described as high-profile and powerful. According to Lucy, the main bread and butter of the businesses, her mom would sell these 20-year life insurance policies that would allow Chinese clients from China to transfer funds into Canada without being taxed. Which I would say, is a little, I don't know if this is true. I don't know how sus it is. I don't know. It just sounds a little crazy when she says it like that. I would say there are pictures of her with Justin Trudeau. There's videos of her shaking hands with Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. She's hanging out with China's General Counsel in Toronto. She's held several fundraisers for Trudeau, allegedly as part of this campaign that was run by Trudeau's political party to seek donations from the wealthy Chinese Canadians. It's the whole thing. They're apparently not your average fundraiser. During one event, there were Cirque du Soleil members performing. I don't even know how big of a space you would need for performers of that caliber. They're not just doing somersaults in the same 3-foot radius over and over again. So these are massive fundraisers. There's videos of Trudeau bringing her flowers. She's translating for him. There's one source that even stated that she went on a trip to China with him, almost like a makeshift ambassador. So Winnie is not a woman who plays around, okay? She is not the type of woman to just let her children do whatever they want. Lucy describes her mom as a tiger mom. Her 3 girls, the triplets, they had founded Canada Youth Funding Association when they were just 13 years old. They had hopes of uniting all children to learn, grow, and experience. I don't know what they did, but that was the whole selling point.
The triplets,
Yes.
they're all founded.
A foundation. Lucy even has pictures next to Justin Trudeau at these fundraising events. I mean, her mom encouraged every single one of her kids to study business and even made a deal. She said, the first triplet to get licensed to sell life insurance for my company is going to be rewarded big time. It said every month she would host these little family dinners that feel more like company dinners, which is very reminiscent of LVMH, if you guys want me to talk about them one day. But if one of the family members makes a mistake, during that dinner, the whole family has the opportunity to comment on it, just publicly shame them. They can comment on whether or not it's mom's fault for not teaching them better, whether it's dad's fault for not foreseeing such an event, or if it's their fault for knowing not to do something and still doing it anyway. She says the 7 of us are like a company board of directors. Each of the 7 directors has a voice and can make decisions. Running a business and managing a family are quite similar.
经常会在一起开会，经常我们大家做一件事情，我们就要去看一次评论，你是爸爸错了，妈妈错了，还是你错了？所以我觉得我们家里7个人就像一个公司的董事团队，7个董事，每个人都有说话权。
So clearly, her kids are doing very well. Winnie would even go on these panels to talk about parenting. During one speech, she's introduced, and this is what the host has to say about Winnie Lee. Every time she appears in public, she speaks quickly and decisively, giving the impression of a powerful woman. Nobody would guess that in her personal life, she is the mother of 5 children. Many people say a successful woman can't have a family. Successful women can't have kids. So often that now she proactively tells people that she has 5 children. Then everyone wants to know, what's your secret? Managing a thriving career while raising children. Winnie is clapped onto the stage and she says,
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
It is my 5 children that forced me to succeed. She says raising children is all about having them try to succeed on their own. She states that when the family was much younger, they would have these family trips planned, yearly family trips, and she would have each of the children plan out the entire trip, handle all the travel arrangements. Even if they saw a mistake in the works, the parents would see something bad was about to happen, they did not interfere. During one trip, she was talking about how she told the kids to wake up on time. She says, for example, I always hear others say, oh, my child doesn't wake up, even after being called so many times in the morning to get up. That does not happen in our family. I told my husband that on a trip, if we have a 6 a.m. flight and our child does not wake up, we will not wake them up. The whole family will not return home instead, and they will have to beg on the streets for food. And they said, Mother, that is way too stressful. We will just wake up. They set their alarms and woke up the next morning at 4 a.m. In fact, they knocked on our door and said, Mom and Dad, if you don't get up now, we're going to miss our flight. It's all about cultivating leadership skills and independent thinking. Her husband says about Winnie, some say my wife is a powerful woman, but I think she is an excellent wife and the best mother. Winnie herself would tell her kids that this is a crucial time in their lives. They need to all grow up and become a powerful, successful woman just like their mother, aka herself. So since the day that Lucy turned 17, she has been working as a financial advisor for her mom's business, which I don't even trust most financial advisors, period. But a 17-year-old financial advisor is insane. Like, maybe she's just that smart. In 2019, Lucy decides, I might just try to figure out if this is what I really want in life. So she asks her mom if she can take some time to figure her life out. Paid, of course. A monthly allowance would be non-negotiable, of course. So that's what happens. For 2 years, the triplets go on to become Instagram famous. the Mia triplets, where they would model in lingerie or swimsuits together. They would make around $500 to $1,000 per sponsored post, which they said was not really funny. It was just fun money. They liked doing it more than anything, okay? One of the sponsors even sent her a free blonde wig that she really utilizes. Now, it appears her mom is very supportive. Lucy's mom would even go on to state this about Lucy, how her eldest was admitted into Harvard. Yes, the same one that the attorney called possibly the stupidest person on the planet. Lucy's mom says, when my daughter got admitted there, I found it particularly strange. Her grades were really poor when she was young, but it's about what label you give your children. Our eldest child is now succeeding at Harvard. I was very puzzled. I said, Lucy, why did mom think your grades were always not good when you were so young? Why is it that now at Harvard, a notoriously difficult school, you can get such good grades? She told me, Mom, growing up, you always told me that my grades are not good, so I always felt like the dumb one. I would just go to school and just sit there. Whatever, I'm stupid anyway. Why should I study? So I would sneak out and play, you know? And I told myself every day, I'm stupid. My daughter tells me, now this is what I want to tell others. Do not put a label on your children. She says that Lucy has now taken away that label and she wakes up every morning and says, I am smart, I am smart. And as a result, she's been studying, her grades are good, the teachers have responded well to professors. So I ask children, you are the best, do not label yourself. Thank you. That's her speech. She forgets to mention that her daughter Lucy goes to the Harvard Extension Program, which, okay, side note, I think any sort of education is an admirable thing. It does not matter. But it is a bit misleading that she talks about it in such a preachy way.
我跟我的 Lucy 也是我的大女儿，哈佛大学的高材生。
And again, this isn't even a point I would bring up, but she uses it to promote her businesses and to gain more influence in the area. See, look how incredible my children turned out. I'm very credible. It is at least a little bit misleading. Netizens have said about the Harvard Extension Program, quote, it's a bit embarrassing. It's a total waste of money. It looks tacky. It's the equivalent to taking one online continuing education class at Harvard and then listing it on your resume. Another one writes, I'm a recruiter and 100% it does not hold the same weight as Harvard. It's the equivalent of having a degree from Grand Canyon University because almost anyone can get in as long as you pay for it. Again, any education is good education, but the way she's presenting it is goofy, okay? A lot of netizens point to the fact that there are actually really, really good extension programs out there. I think Georgia Tech has a good one, MIT has a good one, and they say that really people only choose the Harvard Extension School so that they can say Harvard. Like, no other reason, really. It's not the best program out there, especially for the amount of money it costs. They say it just doesn't look great. So in this context, it does feel a little bit misleading. But fine, the messaging in the entire speech is do not label your children. That's it. Which is a good message. But the courts have already Lucy as a killer. Lucy is brought into a small windowless room in Canada, the interrogation room, and she makes herself comfortable. I don't know if she asked for it, I don't know if they gave it to her. When you see her walk in, she's pretty smiley, and she's draping a police-issued blanket over herself. Kind of like how I draped my scarf over me today. That's how the blanket is over her, but it's a full-size blanket.
Police issue has like police on there.
No, but it looks like they're handing it to her. I don't think they would let her just wear that. So she's draping it over herself. I feel like her energy is more on par with the demeanor of me going downstairs to watch Twilight. It's just very strange. And she just plops onto one of the chairs. And she starts off by saying,
I feel really rude and I don't want to not seem like I don't want to cooperate. And if it was up to me, I would just tell you guys everything. But the lawyer and my mom
Open the door.
and they said that they're on my defense while you guys are not on my defense. So I don't know. I just feel like I shouldn't say anything say anything they said at the defense.
How old is she?
25. But she does ask the officer something along the lines of, but how do you decide who to believe?
Like, should I believe you guys? Or should I believe my mom?
Yes, but also, like, why don't you guys believe me? Like, are you guys gonna believe me if I tell you something? It's just so bizarre. This is where it all starts unraveling, and Lucy is gonna come full circle. December 9th, 2021, a man named Chin gets arrested for a first-degree murder. For a murder that happened a few months ago, and Chin is so confused. Why is he being arrested? The police show him the picture of the victims, and he's even more confused now. He's like, I have never seen these people in my life, let alone murdered them. I don't know these people. I have no connection with these people. What are you talking about? I couldn't even point these people out on the street if you asked me to. The police don't believe him. They know he was there that day, okay? Months ago, a couple was found shot dead in a parking lot of a warehouse. The police were called to the scene where they found a man deceased on the floor with at least 6 gunshot wounds. Next to him was an airline ticket in his name and a torn $5 Canadian bill. On the other side of the parking lot was a single Christian Louboutin thigh-high boot. The deceased man's name is Tyler, and his girlfriend Jordan had been rushed to the hospital, but things weren't looking good. She had been shot in the heart. When the police start chasing all the possible leads, they find that the number was in the exact location as the couple during the shooting. Chin's. The cell records show that he was there. He was there the day that they were killed. And Chin is arguing with the police there was no way he was there that day. Or you prove it. They whip out his cell records. He was in fact there. This is when Chin starts sharing this very wild story of how he has a friend named Oliver. Chin argues that he's known Oliver for like 10 years now. They worked at the same restaurant before they were friends. And when friends ask for weird favors, you do it. You don't ask questions, you just kind of do it. The odd favor that was asked of Chin is he needs to swap his SIM card with Oliver's wife, Lucy. Lucy said her family tracks each other's locations on her phone and they have this very important meeting and she didn't want her family to know about it. So she has to leave her phone at home, but without a phone she can't really call in case of emergencies. So he needs to swap SIM cards with her. It's a huge ask. And the police are thinking, really now? I mean, this is very dumb. But Chin is passionately telling them, yes, it's weird, but he agreed to it because Lucy's family is rich and rich people do weird things. I mean, what's the worst that could have happened? Chin believed that Lucy would not do anything weird. Then he gets arrested for murder a few months later. He said later that night he met back up with them and swapped SIM cards again. Nothing seemed alarming. He would have never known that someone had died that night. When Oliver and Lucy are both finally arrested in Hungary, in Eastern Europe, Lucy responds, oh, the SIM cards and all of that. I have a perfectly reasonable answer to what I thought was going on. Suddenly, she's ready to talk. Lucy says she doesn't even know what they were doing at the warehouse that day. No clue why they were meeting these people. They're friends of Oliver's. Tyler and his pregnant girlfriend Jordan were there. They're not really her friends. So she wasn't that curious why they were at the back of this random warehouse. Lucy was with Oliver in their Audi Q5. The other couple, Tyler and Jordan, arrived in their Range Rover, and all 4 of them walked out to the back door of the facility, and it was locked. Because of course it was locked. And they don't have the key, so it's a moment of confusion. But since it's February in Canada, Jordan says she's really cold. She's pregnant. She's going to get into her Range Rover and turn the heat on. Lucy joins her in the car. She gets into the Range Rover, and the two of them are just sitting there. And Jordan asks her, hey, Lucy, where's your realtor? Lucy was like, I was so confused. Like, what do you mean my realtor? My realtor's not coming. Why would my realtor be coming here? Wait, what's going on? Lucy says she gets out the car to ask Oliver what the hell is going on because she thinks her husband is lying about something again. But when she walks up to him, Tyler is screaming at Oliver, demanding, where's the realtor? Where's your realtor? Oliver tells Lucy to check around the property to see if there's a lockbox. Lucy's confused, but she starts walking away. She says she's about a football field away and around the corner when she hears these pop-pop noises. She doesn't realize what kind of pops they are. And she goes back to investigate because it was kind of loud, and she sees Tyler on the ground. But she's not wearing her glasses, so she doesn't know why he's on the ground. She just thought, like, that's weird. Yeah. And Oliver screams at her to get into the Audi. She's about to get in when she sees Jordan in the front seat of the Range Rover trying to back up, reversing straight into the building. It's chaotic. And Lucy freezes because it looks like Jordan is looking for something in the car. I don't know what she's looking for. Finally, after what feels like forever, she snaps out of it and realizes that Oliver is screaming at her, you're everything up, listen to me, get in the car. She finally jumps into the Audi. That's about it. It's just very traumatizing. I mean,
Jordan was backing up a car.
In the Range Rover.
Okay, and then
And then they just drove off in the Audi. and she just thought it was weird, and she thinks later Oliver went back. I don't know. She's saying it was just weird. It was traumatizing. Her belief in that moment was that Oliver had run Tyler over, probably by accident. Oliver kept bossing her around, telling her that she needs to take the stairs up to their apartment now and not take the elevator because of the cameras. But she's so exhausted and she's terrified. They also live on the 34th floor. She remembers, so she's like, I'm not doing that. She says she just remembers squatting down in the middle of the stairwell, sobbing because she's so confused and scared and traumatized. And like, why is she walking up 34 flights of stairs? That night, Lucy says there was no way she could fall asleep. It was just a lot. She checks the clock. It's 2 a.m. and she gets on her phone and she reads an article about a shooting that said a man and a woman were shot. That was the first moment she realized that someone was injured, and she didn't even know it was a shooting until now. She shakes Oliver up, shoves the article in his face, and she keeps asking Oliver what happened. What happened? She says, he said it was him or me. He's saying he saved my life because they wanted to kill us. He's saying Tyler's gang are going to come after us. In fact, Oliver tells her that he basically just saved both of them, so now they gotta go. They gotta leave. So they gotta go on the run. It's not safe here. Tyler's gang is gonna come after them now. Hurry, we gotta go. They leave the apartment. They drive in her Mercedes. They have no plan. They barely have time to pack anything. She leaves empty-handed. He stuffs a backpack with their passports and about $17,000 in cash. Other than that, nothing. They drive until they run out of gas. They end up at the general store. They toss everything in that restroom. They leave the Mercedes in the parking lot nearby, like a nearby little side parking lot. And then they take a taxi back to Toronto. From there, they take a train to Montreal, but they're running late, so the taxi driver is like, I'll just take you there to the airport. They pay $400 in cash. Then they board a flight directly to Europe. First, they land in Germany, then they catch a connecting flight to the Czech Republic, where they meet up with a guy named Martin. This is what Lucy's saying. She's like, I don't know Martin. Lucy's never met this guy in her life. This is supposedly one of Oliver's European business partners, but that means nothing to her right now. She said she was just so scared out of her mind at this point. She even told her mom and sisters to leave at the house in the middle of the night. Just leave your things, go, go, go. She was terrified that Tyler's gang was going to come after her family and everybody that they loved.
She's telling her family to flee.
Yes, because the gang is very dangerous, she said. Now, side note, because some reports state that while she's basically a fugitive running from the law in Eastern Europe, her family members are sending her hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they must believe the story. Now, regardless, they spend a few nights in the country before traveling to Slovakia. Oliver's dad picks him up from the airport, and that night she remembers waking up in the middle of the night from frantic calls from her sisters saying, there's arrest warrants out for you and Oliver. Lucy and Oliver wake up Oliver's dad, who tells them, you need to leave. This is the first place they will be looking for you. You need to go. Lucy does just that. I mean, she's terrified. She said, I'm just in shock at this point. I never thought I'd be charged with a crime. She keeps asking Oliver what the hell happened because it's just not adding up. But he refuses to respond. He just keeps saying self-defense. It was me or him. They get into Oliver's dad's work truck. Lucy's Chinese. They're in Slovakia. She sticks out like a sore thumb, so she's hiding in the back truck. I mean, they basically have to hide away in an apartment that belongs to Oliver's dad's friend. She said she called her mom right away, and her mom is hysterical, screaming, and Lucy is hysterically crying into the phone. Lucy's mom is demanding Lucy come home right away. They can talk to some lawyers about talking to the police and explain everything that happened. But of course, that's not a plan that Oliver liked. That's what Lucy says. He refused. He did not want to turn himself in. It's not even an option here.
Lucy's mom, they're still in Canada.
Yes.
They did not leave.
No. They're like, you need to come here and you can explain this to the police. The next morning, she wakes up to Oliver speaking to these two guys. Who are they? She's told that they're part of Europol police. European Interpol, basically. And they have cars with diplomatic plates. Were Paul and Milo. She said those were their names. Lucy couldn't understand a single thing they were saying, but Oliver was translating for her. And Oliver is telling her, you think Tyler being dead means we're safe? No, you don't even know how dangerous this guy is. My dad had to get the European police to get involved. That cost just over $250,000. And we might need to transfer more money. They're trying to save us. They're going to help us not get caught because they understand how corrupt the Canadian justice system is. So we're going to stay with Paul and Milo in this apartment. Now, on a few conditions. We don't get to have access to our phones. We will get fake passports, which is the only way we can travel now. And we will only be driven around in these military-looking vehicles with diplomatic tags, and they're going to drive us into a safe house in Hungary. And that's where we're going to be. This is how they live for the next 2 months. It's not until May 15th, Lucy says she gets her phone back and discovers that the international warrant against them is gone. She doesn't see anything else about it now, which means she can go apply for a Canadian passport so she can go back to Canada. The Canadian authorities, unbeknownst to her, are already waiting in Budapest for her. They've been tracking her through Interpol, and now she's just revealed herself. The two are arrested immediately outside of a church, but they weren't actually going to church. It's like a busy street in Budapest that's known for their wild nightlife, so they were likely going out for the night. And Lucy decides to immediately head back to Canada with authorities. She's like, my mom can send us a private jet. And they're like, no, we're gonna fly economy. And she's like, oh my god, I've never flown economy. She's like, I only fly first or private, basically, is what she said. Maybe not verbatim, don't sue me, but the gist. Yeah, the gist. Yeah. So she goes back to Canada with authorities while Oliver decides to stay and tries to fight extradition. This is the story of how Canada's most politically well-connected family's daughter ends up as an international fugitive. I mean, it's just wild. So one of the more annoying parts of all of this is Lucy states in her whole version, first version, is that she wasn't even supposed to be there that night. She had dinner planned at her mom's house, but she only agreed to go with Oliver to that stupid warehouse because he asked her to drive her that night, and Oliver told her to do this weird thing, very weird thing, and she just went with it, which was to switch SIM cards with a friend of his named Chen. So she kept her device, but if you called Lucy that night, it would ring in her apartment on Chen's phone, and if you called Chen, it would ring on Lucy's phone. Lucy thought it was strange, but she didn't think it was strange enough to question it further, or I don't know, not do it at all. So she swaps SIM cards with him, and Oliver fully leaves his phone at the apartment, and they leave. I mean, to be honest, she mainly went with him after their fight because she wanted to make sure that Oliver wasn't going to cheat on her. That's why she ended up at that warehouse. It's kind of an unbelievable story, right? Maybe, perhaps. I mean, a few things definitely don't add up with what was found at the crime scene. A lot of things don't add up at all, and some parts of the story just don't make any sense. It's just nonsensical. But who's going to argue her story? Both victims have been shot. Oliver's not opening up. In fact, he's fighting with every random excuse in the book to not leave Eastern Europe, and it's just Lucy, the credible daughter of a wealthy business tycoon in Canada who has millions of dollars at their disposal to hire the best defense. Who's going to tell them that this story isn't true? Regardless, the truth of the matter is Tyler was shot 6 times. He was murdered. Jordan was shot 3 times. Only one bullet hit her, but it went into her heart. She was supposed to die that day, but she didn't. After spending 3 days in a coma and a bullet taken out of her chest, Jordan wakes up. And she's got a lot to say, mainly that Lucy is a big phony liar. She states that she remembers everything that happened that night very clearly. 3 days ago, February 28th, 2021, Jordan remembers showing up to the warehouse with her boyfriend Tyler. They, Tyler and Jordan, were going to meet with this couple, Oliver and Lucy, where they were going to see if this warehouse was a good fit for a business opportunity, to rent it and use it as a marijuana growing operation. But when they get there, the realtor isn't there and all the doors are locked, which is very annoying. They have to wait for the realtor now in the cold. Tyler and Jordan get into the Range Rover to wait. They turn on the heat. Jordan is in the passenger side. Tyler, her boyfriend, is on the driver's side, turns on the car for her, and then he waves over Lucy and is like, hey, come sit down, it's cold. So Lucy slides into the driver's side. Jordan says Lucy won't even look at her. She's just on her phone. She's texting, but she's acting very nervous. It's like the lack of eye contact is a little bit strange. It's not even like she's distracted or just bored. It's like she can't even look at her. Jordan tries to make some light talk. How's your weekend? Good, fine. What did you do? Nothing, we drank on Thursday. Then Lucy just states, oh my god, you're dressed so pretty and I'm just like a bum. Which, now that she says it, it is weird. Jordan is thinking Lucy told them that they have dinner reservations after this warehouse for 4 at this fancy restaurant. So yeah, now that she brings it up, she is severely underdressed for that. But Jordan is polite. She doesn't say anything. Jordan just says, but when she comes into the car, she just can't look at me, which I thought was strange. Eventually, she gets out of the car, and now my car turned off because the driver's side door had closed. So I guess the car thought it was off. or that everybody had left. So she slides, she doesn't exit the car, she just slides over from the passenger seat to the driver's seat while being inside and turns the car back on. She said that's when she looks up at the side, and at the passenger side window where she had just been sitting, Oliver is standing there, glaring at her, pointing a gun at her. And she said, I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, my mouth was wide open, he's pointing a gun at me, he was shaking, and his eyes were bulging, and then he says, get out of here, Joe. But I guess he doesn't give her the chance to do that, because the last thing she remembers is gunshots going off. Jordan said she heard Tyler's last words, and Tyler had said, Oliver, what the bro? So Oliver had shot Tyler. Jordan's first instinct is to put the car in reverse to try and get out of there, but as she's flooring it, she hears multiple gunshots additionally go off. She had been shot. The car slams into the warehouse, reverses. There are clear holes in her memory from the trauma, but she does remember seeing Oliver dragging her out of the car and throwing her onto the cold floor. And they both drove off. They drove off in the Audi and the Range Rover that was Jordan and Tyler's car. And then she just remembers crawling on the road on her hands and knees, asking for anyone. Is there anyone to save her?
She's still conscious.
Yes, and she had been shot literally in the chest. Yeah, and she says it took an hour. And then finally she just heard a woman, and her voice kept saying, hang in there, sweetie, hang in there. That woman was Annette Bright. The woman had been driving down the road with her boyfriend when she saw what looked like a mangled animal on the side of the road with blood. She just kept driving, but something in her told her, just U-turn. If it's an animal, fine, you can call animal control. If it's something else, it just would keep her up at night. So she U-turned, and what do you know? It's not an animal, it's a woman on the road crawling. She parks the car, lunges out, what happened, what's wrong? And she just keeps saying, help me please, I've been shot. She could see Jordan is getting paler by the second. Annette's boyfriend is already calling 911. The woman on the floor keeps talking, but the only thing Annette could understand is, help me, help me. And then she faded out into a coma that doctors were feeling very pessimistic about, that she would never wake up again. The worst part of Jordan's story is that while she was crawling down the long driveway of the warehouse to get help, she could see her Range Rover driving back and forth on the main road with her intended killers scanning, hunting. So it's presumed that they came back and she was gone. Jordan is gone. So they're like, how is she gone? We shot her. How is she not dead? So I think she had crawled into the bushes, and she just remembers seeing them driving around looking for her, practically hunting her. She's also said that she could hear them fighting and arguing. She could hear one of them saying that, no, for sure she's dead. And the other one said, well, we just need to make sure. After about an hour, they leave without finding Jordan, and that is how she's able to get help. Which, who is Jordan? And why would someone even want her dead? Why would someone kill her boyfriend, the father of her unborn child, Tyler? Tyler can make up to $1 million a day, running what seems to be a cocaine empire. I mean, I don't know if empire is the right word, but $1 million a day, that's not a side job. That's corporate monopoly level money. Jordan says Tyler was not a, quote, street level dealer. He would help import cocaine into Canada and sold it to other dealers. So he's at the top of the food chain, if you will. But she says they weren't in as dangerous of a position as the street level dealers because one of them had been killed once, but Tyler doesn't really have enemies. He's just overseeing and profiting and helping smuggle in the cocaine. Side note, a quick disclaimer, Tyler is a murder victim and absolutely nobody should be murdered. I think that much is very clear. But it would be a bit strange for me to not address the fact that his occupation is likely indirectly harming a lot of people. So it's just very tricky. Now, Tyler was trying to get out of this underworld business. He keeps trying to use his funds to create legitimate, hopefully tax-paying businesses. A diamond company called Hard as Diamonds, as well as a wellness weight loss supplement brand called Elite Organic Nutrition. Jordan would say he just wanted out of the cocaine life. We wanted to have a family and be normal and escape that negativity. He just wanted to be a more legitimate businessman, especially since he has 3 children that are growing older, and Jordan, his longtime girlfriend, the one who was shot, is pregnant with his 4th child. She's 14 weeks pregnant. So a more legitimate business would provide a sense of security for everybody. Now, Tyler and Jordan have a friend who introduced them to a guy named Oliver Knox. This rich kid with rich parents, but His parents are also very powerfully well connected in Europe, was the story that they were told. And he has all these businesses that integrate European contacts with Canadian contacts. And this is during the pandemic. So Oliver's new business plan is they know people in Europe who sell hospital gowns, syringes, and face masks, mark up the price by a ton. That's how they describe it, since hospitals need it right now, and it's just printing money in Europe. They're just printing money. They have a factory in Europe that makes it, then they sell it to the European hospitals. And they're looking for investors.
Like medical.
Yes. Tyler and Jordan invest at first $170,000, which is a lot. But eventually, in total, they invest about $500,000. Crazy. Now, Jordan says, we were expecting millions in dollars in profit. After our initial investment, we put in the 170, then another 300 to get more trucks so the money would come in faster. We wanted to roll the money, which looked very feasible. Their share of the profits would be close to $3 million. Now, this is the part that they're struggling with, is bringing that money in from Europe to Canada without raising a bunch of red flags. Because once you bring that kind of money in, first of all, it's difficult to transfer that amount. But secondly, once you bring that into Canada, it's going to be heavily taxed. And third, once they tax it, they might be like, how'd you get this money? You explain, oh, I invested in this mask business. How much did you invest? $500,000. How did you even get $500,000 when your tax returns show that you don't make any money? Because they're not making legitimate income. It's not an easy transfer. So the day of the shooting, the couple were going to meet Oliver and Lucy at the warehouse, and Oliver had this new business plan, find a warehouse. Lucy would be perfect. Her mom has lots of connections, and they own lots of warehouses, and they have powerful realtors that can get them a good deal. Then they start a legal marijuana growing operation. And from there, I'm sure that Tyler can get more of his money out. Maybe he'll get more of the profits of that, and Oliver and Lucy will take the European profits because it's easier for them to get the money into Canada. You know, that's why they showed up to this empty, abandoned warehouse in the middle of this industrial street. But the problem is, Oliver has no plans to pay the couple back, let alone give them a share of their profits. In fact, Oliver Knox is not Oliver Knox. His name is Oliver Carafa, and he's already killed someone before. What? Oliver tells lots of lies. The first about being the mask business. It's unclear whether or not Oliver himself is in the mask business or if the entire thing is also a lie, but one thing is for sure, he's not giving Tyler his money back. He starts making up all these excuses on why they can't get the money back, and every question Tyler has, there's a long-winded explanation, long-winded excuse. Even the meetup at the warehouse, they're not real. To lure Tyler and Jordan out, where Oliver shoots them both and goes on the run with his wife, Lucy. They flee the scene within 48 hours there in Europe on the run as international fugitives. They are not located for 3 months. When Lucy finally comes back home, Oliver does not. When they're both arrested in Hungary, Lucy comes back immediately. She does have to fly commercial, but nevertheless, she comes back to Canada. Oliver does something fascinating. He files a petition with the courts in Hungary stating that if he goes back to Canada, because the Toronto police are so corrupt, there will be no way he will get a fair trial. They would do something shady. He argues to Hungary. His life is on the line. Oliver Carafa has no plans on going back. He even hires PIs to look into Tyler Pratt to show the Hungarians, like, hey, look, there's a lot of drug dealing going on in Canada, and they're going to kill me. The gangs are going to kill me in the prison. You don't know the prisons in Canada. Yeah, he says, because of his extensive criminal connections and his associates want to avenge his death, my life is in danger. He alleges he will never get a fair trial. Hungarian authorities relay back. Criminal relationships are not bound by national borders, which means that the accused would not be safe in practically any country in the world. The court therefore establishes correctly and lawfully that the conditions of the extradition have been met and orders the arrest for surrender of the accused. AKA, he's going to get extradited. But then he tries to stop that, and he's like, Slovakia, my home country, can you please try and help me? But that doesn't work either. 8 months later, he's sitting economy with Canadian officials. It's likely that his whole plan to stay in Europe was not because he truly believed the Canadian justice system is corrupt. I mean, how could he? He got 5 years for killing someone before. We're going to get there. But allegedly, it's been said that he believes that Hungary would have been an easier place to bribe corrupt officials. And Canada is hard. Lucy did not care. She did not like the presence there. Her mom does a press release when she's back to Canada, and her press release is, the family is shocked. disturbed and puzzled by Lucy's involvement in the tragic incident. They state that they are sure that Lucy would not be involved in such an incident voluntarily and would not do such a ridiculous thing. They say we can hardly imagine the shock and anxiety Lucy experienced after the incident. They beg Lucy to cooperate with the authorities. Which, yes,
So, Oliver killed Tyler because of money,
yes,
but Lucy is rich.
yes. That's also her defense. So now we're trying to figure out what's going on. Is she involved? Is she not involved? Right? Now, side note, Lucy talks about her time in a Hungarian prison while waiting to be extradited. She said every single day she was only given 5 slices of bread and 5 cigarettes. No other food. She said everything cost money there, even sanitary products, and she didn't have money to be put into her account. Now, I don't know how Canadian jails compare, but she's not someone that's going to withstand any sort of prison because she does make Canadian bail somehow. The bail conditions are probably the most rigorous I've seen. The conditions are this. Lucy will be allowed on bail for $2.7 million. Her bail is paid out $2 million by her mom, $200,000 by her friend, and another $500,000 by another second friend. Now, I thought that was weird because, first of all, that is very crazy for a friend to put up that kind of money. Now, another thing is, why wouldn't her mom just pay it all if they're so wealthy? There's a reason. Because under the rigorous bail agreement, Lucy has to be under watch 24/7 by whoever has participated in putting up her bail. They practically become her guardians. If she has to go to the doctor's appointment, it has to be with one of her 3 guardians. She cannot have friends over, but she can have her 3 guardians over.
Wow.
She cannot go to social engagements, but she can stay with her guardians 24/7 and hang out with them. So it's likely her mom didn't want to babysit her the whole time and Lucy wants to be with her friends. One of them even moved into the family home to, quote, watch over Lucy. In addition to those rules, Lucy has to wear a GPS tracker at all times. She cannot have any visitors in the house other than immediate family. She can leave her house for exercise with her ankle monitor on, but she can only go within a 1-mile radius of the house at all times, and only for up to an hour per day. The only time she can go further from a mile is when she has a court-approved medical appointment or to see her attorneys. That is it. She cannot even use the cell phone. She cannot use the internet without supervision from one of her guardians. And lastly, she cannot apply for a new passport, which honestly doesn't sound so bad when you're quarantining in your parents' likely multi-million-dollar estate with your 2 besties, but she still breaks bail. Because before the trial starts, it stated that she went to a That she went to a party. She was rearrested and then re-released on bail again. But she, yeah. The trial is going to be a joint trial with both Oliver and Lucy on trial for murder and attempted murder. And so there's 3 arguments. One from Lucy and her team, one from Oliver, and one from the prosecutors in Jordan. Now, Lucy gets a high-profile defense attorney. The Oliver's defense attorney, he's a really good defense attorney, allegedly, for getting drug dealers off, but not for murder, so it seems like he's way less high-profile. And Lucy's family did not pay for his attorney. So there's a lot of speculations by netizens that if they had the same attorney and had they stuck with the same story, they might have gotten less time. Yeah, so you got the 3 stories from the prosecutor in Jordan and then the 2 other lovebirds that are no longer lovebirds, it seems. Now, Lucy's story changes multiple times, which is not the best look. The first time she shares her version of events, she states that a random stranger, a third party, showed up and shot the couple. Crazy. It was probably one of Tyler's enemies. Then she later changes the story to say that, no, you're right. Oliver was the shooter. But I had no idea that it was going to happen. I thought he, ran Tyler over. It was crazy. And then she says that she was forced to write the initial confession that an unknown man had shot the couple by Oliver, by her husband. He was like, you better write this. She states about her husband, his business wasn't going as planned. He decided it would be best to kill Jordan and Tyler before they found out and tried to kill him or someone he loved instead. Sort of like a pre-planned self-defense that she had no idea about, which also just pre-planned self-defense is the most unhinged defense. I don't know. She said by that point, he had told her all of that. She didn't even know that Tyler had invested in Oliver's PPE mask business. She said she knew nothing about Tyler and Jordan. In fact, she would never want to do business with them because they're not, quote, presentable people. She claims Tyler is very, very terrifying. He is not happy that he's not getting his money back. She said Tyler was violent with Oliver, punching and abusing him. He would allegedly threaten him. If you want to turn me into the police, I have friends in the police, and before I even get booked within 48 hours, I'll have the Somalians kill everyone you love. During the initial interrogation, she's asked, so right off the bat, you're not impressed by Tyler?
Right off the bat, I would say do not associate with these people because they're not good for our social image, and because she's a Hamilton stripper, and Tyler is known in Vancouver as a scary thing according to some children.
This is during interrogation.
Yes. Furthermore, she states that Tyler had this big business idea that he was was trying to rope them into, which they would bring girls in from the Czech Republic to Toronto and Vancouver to get into the escorting business, which, for lack of a better words, she believes sounds precisely like human trafficking. Now, we don't know if this conversation even ever took place, but that is her claim. She said that she would even get into fights with Oliver about how much she doesn't like this couple. She said, I really didn't want Oliver to be associated with them. He knew my opinion and started not telling me when he was going to meet with them. He would downplay their communications. She further alleges that Tyler and Jordan have ties to the Wolf Pack, which is a big gang in the area. And when everything went down, she felt like it was an I told you so moment. She testifies later during the trial. Tyler is very, very scary and very aggressive. He scared me. He's a very big man and very scary.
I'm so sorry. What is that? I told you so.
Yeah, like telling Oliver I told you not to interact with these types of people.
Yeah, like this will happen. If you keep murder's gonna happen.
It's just what her energy throughout all of this is on par with someone maybe getting into an argument.
She's so detached from the real world.
Yes.
It's just like maybe she grew up, she has never faced any consequences. So her attitude is literally this like.
And I think the way she speaks about all these things that happened, it's almost this very firm, I don't know where it comes from, belief that everyone's just going to believe her and be on her side. Like, everyone's on her side. I told them, don't you agree? It's kind of that attitude, is the vibe. And the prosecutors are not on her side. They asked her on the stand, you've been telling us how dangerous you thought it was being around Tyler and his gang connections, his drug dealing. But given that fear, you invited him into your family home? Well, it's not as high risk as being seen with them in public. She thought seeing Tyler and Jordan was worth the risk if the business would turn out well for Oliver. But now in hindsight, she says, quote, I guess I made a mistake. The prosecutors asked her, 3 days before the murder of Tyler Pratt and attempted murder of Jordan Romano, you were part of a plan to kill them, weren't you? No, I was not. What you are saying is ridiculous. It's hard to imagine doing something more despicable to a pregnant woman, correct? Correct. You lied to her face, correct? Correct. The prosecutors tell her, the only pattern that has emerged is your ability to lie and deceive and be dishonest. This was a carefully planned murder. Not correct. She states, these people were dangerous. They were trying to kill us or something like that. I agree that there was a murder plan, but I don't agree that I was part of this plan. You don't have a moral compass. Incorrect. I think my moral compass is not right, but I'm not okay with breaking the law and committing crimes, and most importantly, I would never be okay with a plan to commit murder. Her attorney argues the motive for the murder at the end was money, but her attorney argues Lucy did not need money. She comes from a rich family. This is Oliver's problem. This is not Lucy's issue, which is just another way to say your client is broke and mine is not. But does it actually prove anything? She also states about the PPE business, the mask making factory in Europe, during the interrogation. I have no idea about any of that because Oliver and my relationship, he deals with the finances and the business, and he doesn't really, he tells me the gist of things, but he never really tells me the figures, what he's doing, and it's always been like that since me and Oliver's been dating. We've been together almost 3 years, but we knew each other since high school. She also argues that she does not have the best relationship with Oliver. Honestly, it was toxic. She says, I was practically his chauffeur. At this point, about a year and some change. The way they got married, okay, so 2020, the pandemic hits. 2 months after the whole world goes into lockdown, Eastern Europe is in lockdown. They're like, you know what? I don't like being at home. Let's go to Europe and have some fun. So they're trying to fly into Europe, and Europe is like, no, we are not accepting anyone who does not have a reason to be in Europe. However, Oliver can go because he's a dual citizen. He's Slovakian and Canadian citizenship, right? But Lucy is just Canadian citizenship. So they say, the only way that you'd be able to get into Europe right now is if you guys were married. Then because he can go, he can bring his wife, obviously. So in the airport, they apply for a marriage license, they get a Zoom call with an officiant, get married so they can board their flight to a fun European trip while everybody else is fighting for their lives and people are dying. Lucy is also asked why she wore a blonde wig on the way to commit murder. This was very clearly an attempt to conceal her identity in the elevator to throw investigators off because she swapped her SIM card to make the SIM card look like she was at home. Then the elevator footage does not show Lucy going down to the parking lot. It shows a blonde woman going down to the parking lot. So she could argue, what do you mean? You don't see me leaving the apartment. My phone records are in the apartment. I was in the apartment the whole time. That's what the prosecution's arguing. And Lucy is like, that is ridiculous. The truth is, the wig was from a brand deal that she got on Instagram. So this company sent her a blonde wig, and she would wear it while she had intimate relations with Oliver at times. But she got into this huge fight with Oliver the day of the shooting because she felt like Oliver was always cheating on her. And when she had seen it out and about, not tucked away, not packed, when she saw it out and about, she just assumed that he was going to bring this wig to go cheat on her and have another woman wear the wig because he's got like a fetish for these wigs, is what she's claiming. So she's like whipping the wig around, asking him what the hell, but he argues with her like she's always crazy, you're always making up stuff. She loses it, completely loses her marbles, and throws on the blonde wig. She's like, yeah, you like blondes? I don't know, okay, but she like puts it on, so I'm assuming that's what she's claiming her energy is, and leaves. Kind of like, oh yeah? How's this?
She made me by herself.
Yeah, Oliver takes the stairs down 35 flights, 34 flights.
How did she explain his behavior walking 34 flights?
She said, I don't know, he's weird. Everything is like, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know anything about him. He's weird.
So when she's walking into the elevator, it's on the footage,
Yes.
right? Like, was she hiding? Can you see her face? Or
You
was she-
cannot see her face. She's wearing the blonde wig. She has a hood pulled over her head. She's on her phone, and it's just weird.
She's like hiding her face, right?
Yes, and I imagine if I were ever in this bizarre, likely untrue situation where we got into a fight and I wore a blonde wig into the elevator, I would snatch it right off when I got in there because I'm angry. I'm like huffing and puffing, but she's just like, her body is tight, her arms are close to her chest, and she's just standing there in the corner looking down. She said that she was expecting him to chase her into the elevator, but he did not. That's the story that she's trying to sell. Yeah. And then later she changes the story and she's like, okay, fine. I put on the blonde wig because Oliver told me to do it. And I just did what he told me to do.
And you're saying all of this is like a advance of famous attorney.
Yes, so there is an allegation or rumors out there by netizens that sometimes rich clients are the worst because they never listen to you. They think they're smarter than you. She should have just not said anything. Likely. I have a feeling she wasn't listening to her attorney's advice.
Yeah, because she was asking like, what should I do?
Yes. And then
My
even,
attorney told me not to talk to you, but I'm here telling you what they told me not to say.
and she just, yeah, she would always like stop herself. And then be asked a question and then she would kind of talk and then stop herself. Even all the different houses they stayed in Europe, in Eastern Europe, she said she thought that these were all police who were helping hide them. Because, I mean, it's like she's on some sort of crime thriller series getting moved around from safe house to safe house in a global network of safe houses to shield her from, I don't know what. It's a very odd story that she's selling. And Lucy does try to make up for all of it by stating, yeah, maybe I'm just dumb. Her attorney continues, Lucy is one of the many victims in this case, betrayed by her husband, Oliver. Oliver is the type of guy that takes her to a murder, takes his wife to a murder he knew obviously he was going to commit. Lucy finally developed a bit of a backbone after spending years being Oliver's doormat. Oliver has had far too many victims in his life, including among the many victims is Lucy. I ask you not to let him take one more down. Oliver's attorney has a different strategy. While Lucy can blame everything on Oliver since he was the one that pulled the trigger, Oliver's defense has to be a bit more creative. They say, we do not dispute in any way that he pulled the trigger on the gun that shot Tyler Pratt and Jordan Romano, aka he did shoot them. He killed Tyler, but the defense attorney argues this is not first-degree murder. What Oliver did should be considered second-degree murder. He just wanted to, quote, tame a violent, angry, volatile, muscular, international drug dealer. He argued that Tyler had threatened to break his leg if he didn't get his money back and more ASAP, and their whole defense relies on the fact that Tyler is this big, scary guy and Oliver was too dumb and too scared so he killed him. They say the shooting is so poorly orchestrated it doesn't meet the threshold for first-degree murder. The defense attorney basically states, riddle me this, if what seems at first glance to be a plan so badly thought out that it falls apart because so many obvious things were not considered, that indicates there was no plan to begin with. The attorney argues that one of Tyler's close acquaintances had recently been gunned down in Vancouver. They also state that Jordan and Tyler had gotten into an explosive fight 5 months into their relationship, where the attorney alleges that Jordan allegedly told others that Tyler had physically harmed her. So they're just trying to paint the victims in this horrible light the whole time. They say, and Jordan even said, Oliver told her, "Get out of here, Joe," moments before shooting her. So clearly he didn't want to shoot her. These attorneys are doing stuff. And why? Instead of killing them right away, why would they wait 30 minutes? Why would they spend 30 minutes with them at the warehouse before the shooting? His attorney states about his wife and her defense team. Throughout this trial, Lucy and her team have attempted to do everything they can to demonize Oliver in your eyes, to make you hate him. It has been relentless. To which Lucy's attorneys have stated, yeah, he does not need any help in that department. All of his attorneys asked Lucy why she didn't just tell this version of events when she had that interrogation with the authorities. And they say, here's why you didn't, Lucy. You wanted some time to make up a story. It's taken you 3 years to make up a story. Because the trial happened 3 years later. But if it is true, let's entertain the idea that Lucy's newest version of events is true. Oliver's defense wonders, why would she stay with Oliver in Europe throughout all of this then? The state argues there's no way you can look at this and see something other than a more planned murder. The plan isn't smart. No one said you have to be a smart killer, but you are a killer at the end of the day. This is an outright execution. They swapped SIM cards. They wore a wig. They took the stairs to make it seem like they never left their apartment. They actually purchased a new car. The Audi Q5 was purchased a week before, and they didn't change the license plates. So when they found the Audi Q5 later, the authorities, it got traced back to the original owner. They were like, you are doing something suspicious. And she's like, well, no, I just sold the car. Then they tried to sell the Audi, but they didn't, along with the Range Rover, and once they realized that Jordan is still alive, they fled the country. Just to add to their cruelty, they state that Lucy and Oliver stole $20,000 in cash after killing them as well. So from the crime scene, they took $20,000 from Tyler's car. Additionally, it's very clear that Tyler wanted his money back, but not in an aggressive way. They state that Tyler was having cash flow problems because a cocaine shipment was seized at the border. So Lucy had to write them a $1 million check from her mom's account and said she's so rich she won't even notice the money is gone. But they had no plans of getting that check cashed. Lucy and Oliver is what the prosecution's arguing. Like, they have no plans. Like, they're not going to let Tyler and Jordan even have the chance to cash that check. Because they're going to kill him. It's just to buy a tiny bit of time. So they're like, okay, fine. Like, all that money that you invested is tied up in Europe, so here's $1 million. The Crown says, honestly, Lucy is a big freaking liar. They tried to go through every single thing she lies about, but it's a lot. So, for example, at one point said she had no clue her SIM card had even been swapped. Unbeknownst to her, she just took her phone and left the house. Turns out her SIM card had been swapped. But then they found text messages between Oliver and Lucy a few days before the murder, and they're texting about Chin. Oliver texts him, Chin said he can lend me his son, which sounds like an autocorrect for Sin, and that was 3 full days before the murder, to which Lucy argues it's an inside joke. Son is a nickname that they have for another friend who was supposed to drive them to the meeting that day. Which the prosecutors tell the jury is, quote, an elaborate story that's quite ridiculous. You don't have to be the world's greatest detective to figure this out. 2 days before the shooting, there are messages between Oliver and Lucy where Oliver says, I hope those R words have money. They find it chilling that the day of the murder, the two of them are seen in the apartment elevator together, acting like nothing's gonna happen. They're like playfully pinching each other's cheeks. One big evidence of premeditation is Oliver tries to sell the Audi and Jordan's Range Rover weeks before killing them. Like, imagine trying to sell a random acquaintance's car without their permission. Yeah, you're done. Like, what would be the reason for that? The prosecutors argue, what other possible reason could you have on planning to sell Jordan's luxury Range Rover that she had no intention of getting rid of unless you believe she wasn't going to be around to have a say?
I mean, that also just shows they're genuinely not smart. Like,
No.
they planned the killing and they genuinely don't know.
Yeah, because their defense is like, no, they're so dumb, there's no way they planned it like this. But it's, yeah, no, I think they're so dumb that they did plan it like this. it's just evil. Like, they're dumb and evil. And that's a very scary combination. Lucy testifies during the trial that the prosecutors had stated she planned and deliberated what would have been a double murder, and she responds, I mean, that's ridiculous, because I would never kill anybody. I would never be part of a plan to kill anybody. I would never be okay with a plan to kill anybody. If I had known, I would have put a stop to it. I married a man who shot not just a woman, but a pregnant woman as well as another guy. And I missed so many red flags, and I continue to be in love with him, and I really feel like an idiot right now. She states throughout the trial that she was on the other side of the warehouse when it happened, and she didn't know anyone had been shot. Except Jordan testifies. No, she wasn't. She was standing right there in front of the car when the shooting happened. I'm in the driver's seat. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move, and Oliver is staring at me. The prosecutors asked Lucy about this, and they say, what Jordan said is the truth, and you know it's the truth, don't you? No, I don't. Furthermore, a detail that prosecutors find interesting is a week prior to the crime, the couple purchased that Audi, right? And that was using Lucy's money. She purchases the Audi for Oliver. But get this, Oliver does not have a license. So why would she buy him a random Audi conveniently a week before the crime when he's not allowed to drive? He doesn't have a license. It doesn't make any sense. Side note, he can't drive because a while back when Oliver was 19 years old, he was drunk driving, and this personal trainer, his name David Chang, was in the passenger side. He was going double the speed limit, crashed the car, David Chang died. So he was sentenced to 5 years for reckless DUI. That ended in manslaughter. Yeah, and he got 15 years of not being able to drive and 5 years in prison, which is absolutely nothing. So he can't drive. Why would she purchase an Audi for him? If they have no plans to murder anyone, what would be the reason of purchasing an Audi? She already has a Mercedes. It doesn't make sense. Lucy argues that Oliver told her it was for his flipping car business where he buys cars and ships them to sell in Europe, and she said that he promised to pay her back for it. The prosecutor says Lucy presents as someone with a carefully crafted script, willing to say or make up just about anything to distance herself from every aspect of this plan. Not only was she aware of the plan, she was part of the plan. She was an active participant. The prosecutor states, it is because of Jordan's strength and her courage that you can see the real Lucy and Oliver past all the lies. Perhaps without her surviving, they would have gotten away with it. But she did survive. Jordan states she was in a coma for 3 days. She lost her baby. She has severe nerve damage everywhere. The recovery lasted months of excruciating physical pain where she couldn't even move without someone helping her. Anytime she wanted to sneeze or cough, because it was in her chest, this is dangerous. She can't just sneeze and cough like a normal person. Her mom has to hold a pillow down to hold her body in place. She had fake bones implanted into her chest. She has scars all over her breasts and her stomach. She had to relearn how to walk and even stand. She says, I live every day with anxiety and PTSD. I was so angry. I think the worst part was mourning him. She said she and Tyler were like one person. That's how close they were, and she lost him. She was angry. She says, to hear he suffered in the most gruesome manner makes me shake to my core. She said, yes, he was in the cocaine business, but he wanted out, and he's kind, he has an even temper, he was down to earth, he always put his children first. But even then, she said the first day of trial, she was terrified to be in the courtroom with the couple. The last time she saw them, they were hunting her down in the Range Rover. Jordan states, it's crystal clear, Lucy was involved. She states, and I really liked Oliver. He was always so nice and caring. Tyler loved Oliver. It was a great friendship. He adored him. We considered them really good friends, and that's really embarrassing. It was all fake. It does seem like Lucy is involved, but I think most citizens are confused on why.
How?
Right? I don't know if this matters, but this was an interesting comment that was posted by God knows who, so take this as seriously as you would take a hedgehog with a fedora on. This could be made up out of thin air, pulled out of someone's grass. One comment claims that they personally know Lucy, which anyone can post this on the internet without knowing Lucy. But they write, I knew Lucy for a few years, right before she got with Oliver again. She's rebellious, and these things totally get her excited. She's always had money, but she wanted trouble. It was never about money. She did it because it made her feel good. That's why I distanced myself from her. Lucy's sisters are normal, but she's like a different breed, and has always been. I totally believe she was in this with Oliver. There was another internet rumor that Lucy allegedly unconfirmed whispers in the air, could be made up by anybody, but it stated that she would do this thing where she probably had lots of wealthy friends, right? And she would steal their expensive designer goods, but not to use it. She would steal it and then immediately trash it, allegedly. Which is so weird. I don't know if this is true. Would it be for the thrill? Would it be for the power of it? I don't know. Again, not proven to be true at all, but if it were, I think that's the only insight I could have maybe been able to put together. And again, it might not even be true, right? Because I don't know why she would be involved. Now, side note, it does seem like Lucy's character is confusing. Her morality is all over the place. Her attorney just attacks Jordan the entire time. He states Jordan is not a trustworthy witness in court because, well, she has questionable morals. Sir, he essentially goes on to state that with the mask factory that they invested in Europe with Oliver, their whole business model is to price gouge hospitals during the pandemic while people are dying so that they can make a profit. So he's like, do you really trust someone who just cares about money like that? The defense attorney also asks, does that make her a good person? Then he states, to Jordan, you let a fairly big drug dealer fly under the radar. That makes you part of the problem. Don't you see that? Jordan would later state, we wanted to have a family and leave that negative stuff behind. Then they tried to discredit Jordan's version of events, stating that while she's truthful, she's unreliable because of the trauma that she faced. Which, yeah, but because of who did she have to face that trauma is the question here. What kind of question is that? Oliver's defense states, despite being there, Jordan cannot describe how Oliver shot Tyler, yet she clearly remembers Oliver telling her to get out of here, Joe. Lucy's attorney states, Jordan has a moral compass so far off it should concern the jury. They keep bringing up the fact that Jordan claims to be a good person, but she was living in luxury off of the cocaine money, and how she used to be a dancer, which, I don't know, sir, with all due respect, what about your client? What's going on there? I don't think we can have a morality competition with anyone here. The state argues Jordan has been an open book and a consistent witness. She may have helped Tyler live off-grid and benefited from his work, but no matter what you think of her lifestyle, it does not diminish her credibility. Jordan states throughout this trial, the legal teams have made Tyler out to be a scary monster, but you guys are the monsters. Side note, it said that during the whole trial, Lucy would look over her shoulder and smirk at Jordan the whole time. I don't know if that's true.
Do you know if the mom family was there present?
Yes, but they never went up onto the stand. The mom showed up in a fur coat, designer bags. She does look kind of scary. If Incheon, Korean first impression, she looks intense. Everybody's family showed up. Tyler's family, Jordan's family. The jury takes less than an hour to deliberate. They were found guilty. People actually started cheering in the courtroom when the verdict was read. I think nobody likes entitled, spoiled people slut-shaming and shaming others when they're literally on trial for murder. I mean, the whole thing is frustrating. In Canada, a murder verdict is automatic life in prison with 25 years served before parole eligibility. And Canada's actually pretty good about releasing people. So it doesn't seem like they're going to be there for life. The judge looked at the two defendants and said, it was an outright execution. It is difficult to imagine a more calculated and planned murder than what was conducted.
Lucy's reaction in that moment?
She just looked kind of stoic-faced and a little upset. The best part was when Lucy was being dragged back in by the authorities because she's going to prison. Jordan said, "Bye, Lucy." And Jordan says because of how intense her trauma is, she is terrified of cars and loud noises. She said she was driving one time and she felt this insane PTSD anxiety where she felt like Oliver and Lucy were driving, chasing her, and she got into a car accident. For the first year of recovery, the only way she could fall asleep was to drink alcohol. And she looked at the couple when she gave her victim impact statement and she said, the honest to God truth is, I'm not angry at both of you, nor do I want to avenge you, which would be a normal thought for a woman who has had a child and boyfriend taken from her, as well as a lifetime of PTSD and anxiety you have both inflicted on me. What I actually feel is sorry for you. I feel sorry that you threw away your lives for a lousy $470,000. It's pathetic. remember exactly what you did to me, how you preyed on me and Tyler for weeks. My scars are a daily reminder that I survived what was meant to destroy me. My hope is that your lives will be nothing but a cold jail cell with the same jail food, and the worst part of all will be you alone with your own ugly thoughts. You'll have to face your own evil self every day. But my life doesn't end here. It's just getting started. During the trial, forensic pathologists stated that Tyler did not quickly pass. They say his wounds would have taken anywhere between 2 minutes to 2 hours. The judge stated he was left wounded and was alive possibly for up to a few hours after being shot, with no aid, no assistance being called on by the two offenders. Tyler's mom has stated, "We've gone through a devastating time. We've lost a grandbaby through it, as well as our son. Tyler was a phenomenal father and a talented entrepreneur and someone who was continuously driven for excellence, just very hardworking." They said it was hard to listen to him being labeled as this dangerous criminal when he can't even be here to defend himself. For the past 3 years, Tyler's dad has been trying to get justice, and he's been wearing his son's shoes every day for 3 years. And now that the verdict has been reached, he says that he will put the shoes back in the box because it was the closure he needed. And Lucy and Oliver are now appealing their convictions. And Jordan is suing Lucy in civil court as well as Oliver. So that is where the case is right now. What are your thoughts? I mean, why do you think Lucy was even part of this? It doesn't make sense. I just don't understand the psyche behind it. It doesn't even seem like her mom was going to cut her off. I think her mom has a lot of pressure that she puts on her children, but I think the children play the part well. I think Lucy played the part well, and I think as long as she kept playing the part, I don't think her mom had any plans to cut her off. Because I don't think that would have even looked good for the family, which it seems like her mom cares a lot about. I mean, I don't know them personally, but just from the few interviews I've watched of her. It's just weird. What are your thoughts? Why would she get involved? Let me know in the comments. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next one. Ever since Ronan, a mom in Taiwan, she's invited her daughter back to come live with her. Ever since the two have been reunited, very strange things have been happening. 6 years ago, something happened where the mom, Ronan, could no longer take care of her daughter anymore. Her daughter's name is Dodo, and she could hardly take care of herself, let alone make sure that Dodo is being safe and well fed. But that's 6 years ago. Ronan today, she's different now. She's ready to be a mom again. She can take care of her daughter Dodo. After 6 years of being apart, obviously the initial meeting is definitely a little awkward, but there is this connection there because that's her kid. So for a little while, it seems like the two of them, they're going to go home. They're going to slip into a very natural, familiar family life where they just enjoy doing all these mundane things that they missed out on together. But then, all these strange little things start happening, and they're not little. On the very first night that daughter Dodo returns home, they hear this huge bang in the other room, and there's this sound of shattering glass. Ronan runs into the next room to investigate because it sounds like a home intruder or something. But when she gets in there, all she finds is the floor covered with shattered glass, and there's a tiny little cockroach. It seems like the cockroach crashed in through the window, breaking the glass. Is that even physically possible? It's so strange. Later that night, Ronan notices what looks like a burst eye vessel inside of her daughter's eye, but it's very eerily shaped, like the shape of a cockroach.
What is the dog?
6. And I think if that were all, maybe Ronan would try to look past it and start fresh because, there could be explanations for all of these things. Maybe the glass was already shattered. Maybe the cockroach is just a coincidence. There can be 1,001 explanations. But things start becoming unavoidable. It's not even just the small things anymore. Like, how do you explain when Dodo wakes up one day and her entire mouth is filled with teeth? She has double the amount of teeth. They're practically growing on her tongue. They're everywhere. But the fact that Dodo, her daughter, is able to magically shut doors, she could be on the other side of the room and the door swings shut. The window's not even open. It's not a breeze. How is she doing that? And who does she keep talking to? She keeps talking to someone that doesn't exist. Like she's playing with invisible friends that aren't actually there. Yes, it's her daughter, but it's not normal. And she's confident that the real reason, the real problem here, is that Ronan is cursed. She's haunted, and this curse is being transferred to her daughter. 6 years ago, Ronan, for the sake of a YouTube video, entered this forbidden tunnel, a sacred space, and ever since then her life has been cursed, and now her daughter is gonna die unless she can find a way to help her. And this sounds very much like the plot of the movie, does it not? And that's because it is. That is the plot of the Taiwanese horror film Incantation. The reviews for that movie read, "It's terrifying, exceptionally dark. If you can't watch anything terrible happening to young children, don't watch this. It's a type of movie to break your brain." I watched it and the movie stayed with me for years. I still think about it to this day. Not in a good way. But the truth is, the movie Incantation is actually based on a true story of a family in Taiwan and what happened to them when they get cursed by a demon, how they are tortured for 2 months straight until one of them ends up dead. We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the PAN Foundation. They focus on accessibility to healthcare, aiding underinsured people with their out-of-pocket costs, as well as actively advocating for improved access and affordability. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at RottenMangoPodcast.com. This is another international case with very little resources available. We did our best to translate with professional native speakers, but of course, if there's anything mistranslated, miscommunicated, or any additional information, please let us know down in the comments. Today's case also mentions some mental health conditions, the compulsive eating of non-food items, physical assault, and a brief mention of SA. So with that being said, I do actually have another disclaimer. Listen, I have a very strong appreciation for religion and cultural traditions. I think it's one of the more beautiful aspects of life and just the human experience in general. But I'm personally not a firm believer of anything when it pertains to religion or spiritual journeys. So anything said in this episode is not to push some sort of narrative or belief onto anybody. I truly have no skin in the game. I just am very intrigued by a lot of different cultures and religions. There is information included that I find to be enlightening and pertinent to the case itself, and also just fascinating that I wanted to share with you, but I am not trying to get anyone to believe one thing or another or anything at all. Also, another side note, many of the gods mentioned in today's episodes, the deities, they have very complicated backgrounds on how they came to be, and obviously there's different interpretations and beliefs for each one, but I do want to mention that it does seem that at least a few of them are based off of Hindu gods. So this is, again, not me trying to erase that link or not give credit where credit is due, but I think to deep dive into the origins of each god would take a lot of care and expertise, and I'm mainly trying to include the parts that would be relevant to the actual case. So if you guys actually know more about each deity, please let me know in the comments. I would love to learn more from you guys because the internet is a tricky place where everybody disagrees a lot. So with that being said, let's get into it. April 11th, 2005. It's a very normal Monday afternoon, and Mr. A, well, let's call him Mr. A, is at home watching TV, and he hears this knock at his door. Mr. A is one of the few neighbors that are still around. All the other neighbors had, interestingly, packed a little bag and moved out into hotels, leaving most of their stuff behind, still paying rent. It's very odd. Mr. A gets up and he walks to the door, looks through the tiny little peephole, and he sees his neighbor, a middle-aged man, Mr. Wu, just standing there looking very anxious. "Mr. Wu, what's wrong? How can I help you?" Mr. Wu leans in closer to the door. "Call an ambulance." "What?" Mr. A fumbles with his locks, and by the time he opens the door, Mr. Wu is gone. He looks to the right, he looks to the left. No Mr. Wu. He didn't even know middle-aged men could move that fast. It's wild. So he grabs his phone, puts on his jacket and his shoes, and he starts making his way over to Mr. Wu's house, which is at the top of a neighboring building. It's a 3-story building, and Mr. Wu is at the top. That's his residence, 3rd floor. So he's running up the stairs. He approaches the door. He doesn't see Mr. Wu anywhere. He's nowhere to be seen. He presses on the handle of Mr. Wu's front door. The door creaks open, and a fly comes flying out at him. So strange. He walks inside, And once he sees why an ambulance needs to be called, Mr. A runs back out of the house. He's dry heaving on the pavement and immediately calls the police. When the police arrive at the scene, they want to know what the problem is with the Wu family. I mean, arguably, they seem very incredibly normal, if not very mundane. The Wu parents have 4 children. The eldest daughter works in Taipei. The second daughter is a nurse. The third daughter goes to college. The son, the baby of the family, works at a local printing house. They're all adults. The kids are in their 20s at this point. It's a very normal family. Until the police talk to the neighbors. They are not normal. What do you mean by that? Neighbors have been reporting hearing very strange noises coming from inside the house all night long. This loud, sometimes it's like a banging noise. Sometimes you don't know what the source of the sound is. Sometimes you do know. And then sometimes it's just the most obnoxious gong going off all night long. Which is definitely frustrating for neighbors to deal with, the constant ruckus from the upstairs residents. But the neighbors aren't even annoyed. They're not even pissed off. In fact, they're just scared. Something about the noises is different, okay? Sometimes the family of 6 would sit there just splashing water on each other in silence, splashing cold water all over each other, shivering, but they say they're hot. It's weird. Sometimes the neighbors would wake up in the middle of the night to hearing someone screaming, other times to chanting. They look up at the house and, yeah, the police are like, that's not a normal place. They look at the signs posted on the windows into the house. There's a red 8 trigram symbol posted onto the window. The 8 trigrams are ancient symbols used in Taoist philosophy that represent the 8 principles of feng shui. Feng shui being harmony of individuals in their environment. At its core, feng shui is about creating balance and flow in your living area, right? So the 8 principles of having good feng shui balance, oversimplified, are heaven, earth, thunder, water, mountain, wind, fire, lake, which symbolizes joy and pleasure. So they all mean something, and with opposite trigram symbol in the middle of the night to hearing something obnoxious gong by that. Neighbors have been reporting hearing their family works at a Wu family. I mean, arguably, they seem very incredibly normal, if not very mundane. The Wu parents have 4 children. The eldest daughter works in Taipei. The second daughter is a nurse. The third daughter goes to college. The son, the baby of the family, works at a local printing house. They're all adults. The kids are in their 20s at this point. It's a very normal family. Until the police talk to the neighbors. They are not normal. What do you mean by that? Neighbors have been reporting hearing very strange noises coming from inside the house all night long. This loud, sometimes it's like a banging noise. Sometimes you don't know what the source of the sound is. Sometimes you do know. And then sometimes it's just the most obnoxious gong going off all night long. Which is definitely frustrating for neighbors to deal with, the constant ruckus from the upstairs residents. But the neighbors aren't even annoyed. They're not even pissed off. In fact, they're just scared. Something about the noises is different, okay? Sometimes the family of 6 would sit there just splashing water on each other in silence, splashing cold water all over each other, shivering, but they say they're hot. It's weird. Sometimes the neighbors would wake up in the middle of the night to hearing someone screaming, other times to chanting. They look up at the house and, yeah, the police are like, that's not a normal place. They look at the signs posted on the windows into the house. There's a red 8 trigram symbol posted onto the window. The 8 trigrams are ancient symbols used in Taoist philosophy that represent the 8 principles of feng shui. Feng shui being harmony of individuals in their environment. At its core, feng shui is about creating balance and flow in your living area, right? So the 8 principles of having good feng shui balance, oversimplified, are heaven, earth, thunder, water, mountain, wind, fire, lake, which symbolizes joy and pleasure. So they all mean something. And when you put that symbol of the 8 trigrams on the window, it typically means that whoever lives in this home is seeking protection. They likely want to ward off negative energy and spirits, which is not too crazy of a thing to want. I feel like we all want that. They see that red 8 trigrams taped to the window, which itself is very normal, standard even, but it's everything else that makes the house feel so strange. On the balcony of the house, there are these black clothes that are sticking out of the windows like flags. It does not appear that the clothes are being hanging to dry. They're hanging on sticks, just floating in the air like flags, or like ghosts wearing black clothes and hanging out of the window, whichever one you want to envision. When you step foot into the house, you hear this crunching noise, and you look down, and the entire floor is covered like a beach. But instead of sand, it's covered with salt and rice grains. The whole floor. They can hear flies buzzing around the house. They walk further in, and on the dining table, they find a whole table setting laid out. Plates, bowls. The bowls are filled with fulu, a talismanic paper soaked in water. And the plates are smeared with the main dish, the main course. Feces. Poop. The flies are just circulating over the table, but that's not the only source of the smell. Feces has been thrown at the walls, covering the walls, sliding off the walls. Not a single window was left open to let in some fresh air. Not only that, but the windows are covered in these yellowish papers taped to the windows, resulting in this severe lack of sunlight coming in, which means feces are hanging off the walls. The air is thick from the smell, not a single hint of a breeze, just still air sitting, marinating in the poop stench. And no sunlight to try and balance things out. It's dark, dingy, grimy, and the smell of feces is overwhelming. In one of the bedrooms, there's a 28-year-old woman lying motionless on the floor. Her lips are stiff and she does not appear to be breathing. She has no pulse. They rush her to the hospital, but it is no luck. She has been dead for 2 days before the police found her body. The hospital starts an autopsy on the woman, and her whole body looks incredibly pale. There's these massive wounds all over her body, giant bruises, fist-sized, up and down her body. But more puzzling than that are these tiny circular uniform burn marks, similar to cigarette butt burns, but not really. It's much smaller. It's about the size of like an ink dot. So if you were to take the tip of a Sharpie and just hold it onto your skin, it's kind of that size. What could even cause burns that size that are that consistent and uniform all over her body? Believe it or not, there's another medical mystery that the doctors cannot even wrap their minds around. Shoved into the woman's nostrils, mouth, in her esophagus, and smeared all over her skin is a mixture of urine and feces. Furthermore, her entire stomach, the only thing in there is no food. Nothing but just semi-digested feces. The sheer volume of feces would indicate it was most likely human feces. So why? How? I mean, who did this to her? The police are able to confirm that the deceased woman is the eldest daughter of the Wu family, the residence that she was found in, which means the people most likely to have answers to what happened to her are her family members. But there is no trace of the rest of the Wu family. After Mr. Wu knocked on his neighbor's door, he vanished, along with his wife and his 2 daughters and his 1 son. All 5 of them are gone. They hadn't taken any belongings, nothing. They just disappeared into thin air from this house. And there are just some places that you just do not go. In the movie Incantation, the place that you're not supposed to go is inside this tunnel in this remote village temple. But because the main character, Ronan, the mom, and her boyfriend at the time, they run a YouTube channel where they go ghost hunting, they weighed out the options and they thought, go into the tunnel to get great views, or not go into the tunnel. They go into the tunnel. Ronan's boyfriend and his cousin decide, we're just going to get the good footage, despite being warned by the locals multiple times never to step foot in here. We're just going to go and get the footage, and that's how they get cursed, and Ronan's boyfriend and cousin ultimately die. Ronan ends up giving birth to a daughter that she didn't even know she was pregnant with at the time. She has to give up custody to her daughter for 6 years because of how mentally messed up she is from everything that has happened inside that tunnel. Because, again, there are just some places that you just should not go. In the real-life case of Incantation, the Wu family, they travel to the Five-Finger Mountain. It's called the Five-Finger Mountain because the peak of the mountain has 5 prominent peaks. It looks like the ridges of the fingers of a hand. It's a natural landmark, but some people don't think it's the safest. Not just in terms of physical safety, but spiritually. I mean, in many folklore, mountains are considered sacred places that are inhabited by supernatural entities, which means, yeah, you can go there to get guidance from the good supernatural entities, but when there are entities, one might believe there must be good and bad. You can't just cherry pick. According to many folklore, those who died unjustly or have unfinished business, they typically dwell in the mountains, waiting for their chance to get revenge. They may want to trap the living just due to how angry they are. And it's said that the path on the middle finger of the Five-Finger Mountain has the most negative energy. Many people experience and have reported feeling stuck, physically, like they feel like they can move, but their legs won't move. They feel exhausted all of a sudden, drained, but not just, oh, I'm a hiker, I'm tired. It's weird. It's unexplainable. They hear voices. They have all these unexplainable supernatural encounters on the third finger. But like I said, when there is good, there's also bad. So it works in the opposite way. Meaning some people believe, no, if you go to the five-finger mountain and you meditate, you're going to get amazing guidance to spiritual problems that you may be having. So the three Wu sisters are sent to the mountain for a month to meditate. This is the real life family. Three of the sisters, so they have 3 daughters and 1 son. The 3 daughters are sent to the five-finger mountain for an entire month to meditate at a local temple.
Oh, so this is before the sister was dead.
Yes, they need to use the power of meditation to drive out the demon inside of the eldest sister, the one that ends up dead. It's going to take at least a month. They're going to stay at the temple, and they are not to come back home until they are cleansed. I mean, it's not like the sisters really wanted to do this, but they don't really have a choice. Their lives were incredibly normal until it wasn't normal, and it all starts February 2005. It starts with the Wu family's eldest daughter. So she's the oldest, she's the one that passes away, and she's the only child that no longer fully lives with the entire family. So the youngest daughter, she's in college, she lives in the dorms, but she comes home every single break. The eldest daughter, she's actually moved out completely to Taipei. She's managing this convenience store with her boyfriend. So let's just call them Sister A, B, C, and Son. Okay, she gets a call from her mom. What's going on? Hello? And the mom tells her, I'm very worried, I'm very concerned. I know that things have been happening over there with you. What do you mean? Sister A is confused. She's trying to figure out why her mom is freaking out, why she's saying, I know something's happened. Nothing has happened. I mean, absolutely nothing has happened. If something had happened, she would have called her right away. But her mom is just frantic. She's dead set that something weird is going to happen, or it's already happening, and you just don't feel it, you just don't realize it. Sister A calms her mom down, and she hangs up the phone thinking, okay, that was a little bit strange, but I think she's okay now. A few hours later, the door to the convenience store opens, and it's her mom. The car ride to get from where her parents live on the south side of Taiwan to Taipei is a 4-hour-long drive. You just don't drop in and say hello. Her mom never does this. This is the type of visit that requires a lot of planning. You take the weekend off, you come to visit, you have an itinerary, so what the hell is mom doing here? Mrs. Wu tells her daughter, you need to come back to the family home immediately, or else very bad things are going to happen to you. Listen, she must have a lot of faith in her mom, because she grabs her things and just instantly leaves Taipei. She drops everything. She leaves work mid-shift to go with her mom. Interestingly enough, when she gets home, the energy in the family residence is quite happy. Everybody's happy. I mean, it's been a minute since all of them were gathered, since everybody's busy with work and school. Mr. Wu even cooked up this massive, delicious food table for the kids. And then during dinner, they start discussing what's been going on. And the Wu family, like I said, consists of 3 daughters and 1 son. The whole situation started when Sister C comes home from college for winter break, because it's February of 2005. She's normally someone who sleeps well every single night, but ever since she got back to the family home for winter break, she's been having nightmares every single night, and it's always about the 3rd prince. The 3rd prince, Li Zhao. Yes, the 3rd prince, according to mythology, he was born after spending 3 years and 6 months in his mother's womb. His mom was so sick of him in her stomach that she would get frustrated and, quote, pound her stomach in anger for such an extraordinary long pregnancy. And to make matters worse, when she finally gives birth to him, instead of a baby, a giant ball of flesh rolls out of her body, and her husband, the 3rd prince's dad, witnesses all of this and is convinced that his wife just gave birth to a demon that needs to be extinguished. He grabs his sword, attacks the ball of flesh, it opens up, and out comes a fully formed boy, the 3rd prince, that can talk immediately out of the womb. Now you may be thinking, that's a pretty tough dad and son relationship to mend after your dad is adamant that you're a demon the second that you come into this world. But despite that, the 3rd prince has a strong dedication to his family. The prince and his dad are known to fight all the time, but ultimately it seems like the 3rd prince has a strong sense of filial piety. I mean, he is, at the end of the day, one to protect his family, which is why he is typically worshipped for protection of children and families and sometimes ensuring safe travels. The 3rd prince deity is typically known as the patron god of children. In terms of worshiping deities, the third prince is not an intense one to worship, if that makes sense. It's just some deities are more fickle, some are more secretive than others, but the third prince, he sounds kind of chill. I mean, generally he prefers offerings, fruits, meats, nice. Duck meat he doesn't like because it's considered sacred to him, so you have to be very careful. He's also a teenage deity, so he really likes candies. And if you really want protection from the third prince, to just have a small statue of him is usually a good way to get it. He's a guardian deity, though. Keep this in mind. He's very protective. He's a protection god. Now, Sister C comes home from winter break, and every single night she's back in the family home, she's plagued with these nightmares, and she can't sleep now because she's terrified of her own dreams. The third prince is somehow popping up in her dreams, which makes it feel like somebody needs protection around here. She has these migraines throughout the day that make her drop to the floor with how intense it is. She's never had these before. She's supposed to be resting before school starts, so what is happening? Her parents suggest her to go to the temple. That's going to help get her soul back. Now, to give you some context, and again, a quick disclaimer, not everybody in Taiwan believes one thing or the other. Like, same with America, everybody has their own beliefs, and then you have people who are very extreme in their beliefs, and then some people who are a little bit more casual with it. I will say the Wu family is as extreme as it gets. They're very extreme with their beliefs. You're not going to see the extremity of their beliefs right now, but you'll see it escalate, so keep that in mind. They're like, you need to go to the temple and get your soul back. Some people believe that the soul can leave the body because of many different circumstances. We've kind of talked about this before with the microwave case.
Okay, yes.
Yes, the soul leaves the body when there's some sort of trauma or shock, near-death experience, intense fear or pain, spiritual attack, sleep or dreaming. Sometimes souls will wander out of your body during sleep, and then when you wake up, your soul can't get in and your soul is lost. They say that you can typically tell when someone's soul has left their body. They suddenly have a very hard time recalling specific events. They might have memory loss, or they suddenly have weakened immune systems, and they just feel this emotional numbness. They look like they're zoning out all the time. It looks like they're missing a part of themselves because their soul is missing. That is what the Wu parents believe is happening to Sister C. They encourage her, go to the local temple. They can perform this soul-calling ritual to bring your soul back home, back into your body. You gotta go. Sister C goes to the temple to get her soul back, which it does seem to work, but she ends up getting a lot more than what she asks for. She states to her family that suddenly, out of nowhere, the third prince showed up again, and this time he had a divine message for her. He tells her that Sister A, the eldest sibling, has to come home immediately, or else her life is in grave danger. She's the one working alone in Taipei. The family take this information incredibly seriously. If the third prince is saying that, that means he would only be saying that to protect the children of the family. He's a guardian deity after all, which means something might happen to the children. Even if the third prince didn't say anything to Sister C in the dream, the third prince even showing up in one's visions or dreams or sights typically symbolizes that the dreamer or someone close to the dreamer is in need of protection. Because the third prince, like I said, is almost synonymous with protection. This means something. The next day, after the third prince shows up in Sister C's dreams, the mom goes all the way to Taipei and gets her eldest daughter, brings her back home. On my desk, I have this inch-thick daily planner. Actually, I recently went to South Korea and got some art asked to task that matches, or a phrase that right, and what my data and personal information AI with their enterprise-grade security. That night, Sister A, she's being told all of this over dinner. She thinks it's strange, but she tries not to think too much into it. She goes to rest, and she comes all the way from Taipei, lays down in bed. She doesn't feel like the energy is that strange. She's home. She's so familiar with this place. This is where she grew up, with everybody that she trusts more than anything. And she drifts into sleep. And hours later, she's awake, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. Her mom slams open the door. She's been screaming all night. She runs in. What's wrong? What's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. Sister A tells her mom that everything little sister said is coming true. There's this nightmare that she just had where she was essayed by a strange man and then ended up killing him, and there was so much blood, and everything bad is happening. Her mom drags her out of bed, and both of them kneel at the family's at-home altar to start praying. But the next night, it happens again. Another nightmare. Now, the eldest sister can't even go to sleep without feeling this intense fear. She won't even sleep during the night. She dozes off here and there during the day, but that's about it. Like, think of it as naps. She hasn't gotten a good night's rest since she got home. Whenever there's a loud noise, she starts freaking out. If someone is talking in a pitch higher than an inside standard voice, she freaks out. Eventually, the eldest daughter, likely out of serious sleep deprivation and feeling mental torment, she starts slapping herself. She starts slapping her own legs, slapping her arms, and the Woos are really alarmed by this. They drag her to the temple where the youngest had gotten her soul back, and the parents tell the ones that run the temple they think they know why this is happening right now. We understand why. Okay, so the family thinks the reasoning of all of this is because they moved the third prince statue in their house. So way before he showed up in Sister C's dreams, the third prince had his own altar at the Wu family house. They worshipped the third prince. But a while back, they had gone to a different temple, and with some guidance, one of the mediums there told the Wu family that their family situation seems unclean. He was very ominous about it. He didn't give them much more information. So the Wu parents, being firm believers, they start getting paranoid. They ask him to come to their house to exorcise the evil spirits that's making the residents unclean. And while they're exorcising the place, they move the statue. They move the altar of the third prince to a new location inside the house, but maybe they shouldn't have done that. Maybe that messed with the protection of the house somehow and made it so that another entity could enter, like a non-protective entity could enter their home. At the temple, the eldest sister was able to be cleansed by the spiritual mediums, and when she comes back home, things are normal again. In fact, after a few days, she's had zero nightmares, zero slapping herself on the legs. She's like, maybe I should go back home to Taipei. When we avoided this looming tragedy, likely it was nothing. We just needed to move the statue back. I should just go home and resume life as normal. That's the best case scenario, yes? As the eldest daughter is spending the last few days with her family, she gets this phone call. It's like a rather brief phone call. Nobody can really even make out who she's talking to or what she's saying. But by the time she hangs up the phone, she is no longer their daughter. She is no longer sister. She turns around and states to the entire Wu family that she is the goddess of mercy. By the time she hangs up the phone, she is no longer their daughter. She is no longer sister. She turns around and states to the entire Wu family that she is the goddess of mercy.
She hung up the phone. She said she's a goddess.
Now, to give you some context, this is good and bad news depending on your own beliefs. If you do not believe in deities being able to possess humans, this is very bad news. If you do believe it, like the Wu family does, then this might be the best deity to be possessed by. The goddess of mercy is often described as the kindest of all deities. She is the mother of compassion and mercy. She's believed to have unconditional love and compassion for all beings, even humans. She's not fickle, where, fickle deities might want more in return or set you up in some aspects. She's not like that. She's known to work tirelessly to save all beings from suffering. So if the goddess of mercy has taken their daughter's body, that means there is a divine message there for them. The Wu parents think, wait, maybe all of this going on is because our daughter is a spiritual medium, and this is the way we find out. A vessel is the spiritual medium between the deities and the humans, the so-called translators between the gods and the mortals. So when mortals, like humans, have questions, they have nowhere to seek answers. They may approach a spiritual medium and request that they ask the deities for the answer. Being a spiritual medium is typically, from my understanding, a job that calls you. You don't call the job chooses you. People will naturally find themselves being able to connect with spirits, and with further guidance or training of sorts, they can be full-fledged spiritual mediums. It's not an easy job. One medium describes it as, the first time, your body feels very warm, really hot. The energy is starting to come to your body, starting to surround you, so you feel very, very warm. Within the first 5-10 minutes, the energy starts slowly coming, and within that time, you'll know the energy belongs to which deity and what they're here for and what purpose. During the possession, you won't know what's happening until you wake up. Then you'll feel very tired afterwards. It's a lifetime commitment being a medium. It's very exhausting. Which, side note, there's actually a lot of harm when it comes to being a spiritual medium. one of the key components is, for I'm sure many reasons, spiritual mediums will feel the need to harm themselves. So while they're being the vessel for the deity, a lot of the times they'll write these talismanic papers. So these charms on a piece of paper that you take for protection, and they will use the blood from their tongue. So a lot of the times they'll cut their tongue and use the blood to write, but they don't feel pain when they're in this state, they say. They'll even pin flags to their skin. So you know those wooden skewers that you grill things on? I don't know if it's those that are used precisely, but that's about how thick they are. Some of the spiritual mediums will pin flags onto their back. They will pinch a piece of their lower back skin, stab the skewer into their flesh, and have it standing upright so that the flag is near their necks. And they'll pin like 5 of them, so they have 5 flags pinned into their backs.
See, I've seen that visual, but I didn't know they stab into themselves.
Yes, and then they will stab skewers through their mouth, like metal bars through their mouth. It's said that that's kind of proving to the mortals that they are a vessel, because it's very difficult to do that. It's said that spiritual mediums don't feel any pain when they're possessed by gods or spirits, and for that same reason, they tend to heal quickly and without infection. So it's a lot. Some spiritual mediums will stab their stomachs with sewing needles when they're in a trance. They'll even pierce a full metal needle through one cheek to the other, like I said. I mean, some of them have whips with needles, and in their trances, they will begin whipping themselves. One spiritual medium says, I believe it's a way the deities protect the medium by helping them not feel pain during the rituals. It's also a way that the deities show their powers to us humans. The Wu family thought for a moment, maybe this is what's happening to Sister A, their eldest. Because she's banging her head up against the walls, the tables, she's using her nails to dig into her face, scratching her skin off. Her whole body looks like it's being covered in bruises now. It's like she has this crazy superhuman strength, and in order to even get her to stop, they have to tie her down with ropes. Just running a rope around her until she can't even move an inch.
Wait, so she's saying that she has been possessed
By the goddess of mercy.
and she is harming herself?
Yes. The parents look at each other because at first they thought maybe our daughter is a spiritual medium. But this is not the goddess of mercy inside their little girl. This feels like something else. This feels like a demon. Sister A's eyes look different. I mean, they say that she starts laughing, but having these eerie bursts of laughter that sound very maniacal, and she starts dancing around her siblings, almost like she's taunting them. I am the goddess of mercy, here to quell the chaos and eliminate adversity for you. That night, the 6 of them are back on their knees in front of their ancestral tablets, their altars, praying. Another sleepless night, trying to figure out what is going on. This is when they decide, this is no ordinary possession, which means they cannot have an ordinary solution. They must go to the 5-Finger Mountain and get rid of the evil spirits for a singular month. So while the 3 sisters are gone, the Wu parents and the youngest son are left at home alone. They decide, we need to cleanse this place before the sisters come back. Because if they come back and the demons are still in this house, what is the point of them being gone for a month? According to masters of spirits, they say someone's front door can tell you a lot about what's going on inside that home. The front door is a very important boundary between the outside world and the safety of the home. It's the critical line between the 2 realms, the outside world and the inner sanctuary. It's a physical entrance, but it also has an energy border, if you will. Now, this is not an attempt to be dramatic about a literal front door. Historically, there are households that would perform sacrificial rituals to door spirits. That's what they're called, to make sure that their doors are properly managed and well protected. There's door deities that are supposed to help guard against evil influences, but they can't be so stubborn and not letting anything into your front door, because then you're not going to get wealth and good fortune either. So it's a very tricky balance. You don't want to piss off the door deities.
China, you see how they put almost like a painting, stick up one on each door, so there are 2 of them. They help you
Yes.
guard the door.
Yes. So people will do rituals for them. And like rituals, I'm not talking weird rituals. Like they'll just offer fruits and stuff. Now, right upon entering the Wu family house, the master that they've invited to cleanse the entire residence sees a fox spirit standing guard at the door. That's what he says. Now, seeing any sort of spirit at anybody's front door is a very worrisome sign, let alone a fox. He said a fox spirit typically is a symbol of chaos. Foxes are sly. They're mischievous little creatures. They like to get into all the little naughty things. There are some that believe foxes can predict disasters. They can tell when there's impending doom coming. So to see one at the front door main problem with foxes. Foxes are known to feed off of human vitality. In Taiwanese folklore, there's a tale of a village where young men kept falling mysteriously ill. Nobody knew what the problem was. They all ate different things. They're all drinking water from different streams. There's no reason for all of them to be sick. Is it the air? And the women were surprisingly fine. It was later discovered that a family of female fox spirits had taken residence nearby, and the female foxes were seducing and draining the men's vitality. Foxes may be here to cause chaos, or to symbolize impending doom, or to slowly suck the life out of the residents of the house. Not always, but that's how the master interprets this fox. Now, if it was just the fox standing at the front door, maybe the family would have been fine. But the master tells them, this is a house full of fierce demons. If you live here for too long, you will definitely be eaten up. You will be possessed. There's no way around it. As he is told to go further into the house, he keeps shaking his head no and starts walking out of the house. The master just tries to leave, like he U-turns after a few steps into the Wu residence, and Mrs. Wu, the mom, is not having it. She paid a pretty penny for this man to come into her home. He's going to tell her what's wrong, and he's going to fix it. Feng Shui, at its core, like I said, is making sure your home feels harmonious. It really depends on how deeply someone wants to take it. Some just take it purely as usage and design purposes. Yes, using a too large coffee table with sharp corners that you bang your leg against could be bad Feng Shui, but it's also just like a really bad design element. Or others take it a bit more seriously. Certain plants, certain placement of furniture beyond design elements either bring positive or negative energy into the home. You don't want too much pieces of furniture with sharp corners, sharp edges, because it's a different type of energy that you're welcoming in. For example, some common Feng Shui tips: don't keep broken items around in your home. Either fix it or get rid of it. Broken items carry broken, disrupted, chaotic energy. Don't keep the toilet lid open when you're not using it. Open toilets are thought to drain wealth and positive energy. Avoid mirrors directly facing the bed. It's said that not only does it disturb sleep, it potentially invites a third party into your marriage. Or place your desk in a position where it faces the office door, but it's not directly in line with it. If you're directly in line with it, any and all energy coming into the office, you will impact your work with. But you want to be able to see the door without being directly in line with the door, because you want to see the opportunities that are coming your way. You need a clear line of sight. But you could take it even a step further. And the belief is that Feng Shui can impact the kind of spirits that come into your home. The house they live in is positioned in a way where the sun does not come in. It's very dark, it's lightless, it has an irregular shape which gives it extremely poor Feng Shui right off the bat. It's a house that basically invites the ghosts in. But worse than that, there is a road that goes up to the front of their home. They are at what's called a T-junction. They sit on a road, but there's also another road pointing directly towards them. A home that sits on a T-junction, the master states, is very, very bad, because the energy is all directed to the house, and the rushing energy can be very harmful. It can bring in quite unstable spirits into the home and create a poison arrow, if you will, where the fast-moving energy is almost attacking the home non-stop. It's relentless. The master tells the family, over time, living in a house with bad Feng Shui will drain your spirit, and once you're in this vulnerable, weakened state, you can easily be possessed by bad spirits. Every day that the demons have been growing, it's even more dangerous to get rid of them. You have to be very, very proactive. Do you understand? Now, side note, anybody living in a house in a T-junction, don't freak out. I think this has as much power over you as you believe it does. I would say most people that I know believe in Feng Shui in a rather casual, like they don't really believe spirits will come, but just the flow of your furniture. They honestly treat it more like a design suggestion, so don't freak out, nothing's going to happen to you. But like I said, this is just an